This board is comprised of 7 members. 4 members of the board shall constitute a quorum, and the affirmative vote of 4 members shall be necessary for the adoption of any motion. If only 4 members of the board are present, an applicant may request and be entitled to a continuance to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the board. If a matter is continued due to a lack of quorum, the chairperson or secretary of the board may set a special meeting to consider such matter. In the event that 4 votes are not obtained, an applicant, except in the case of a comprehensive plan amendment, may request a continuance or allow the application to proceed to the City Commission without a recommendation. Pursuant to Resolution Number 2021-118, the City of Coral Gables has returned to traditional in-person meetings. However, the Planning and Zoning Board has established the ability for the public to provide comments virtually. For those members of the public who are appearing on Zoom and wish to testify, you must be visible to the court reporter to be sworn in. Otherwise, if you speak without being sworn in, your comments may not have evidentiary value. Lobbyist registration and disclosure. Any person who acts as a lobbyist must register with the city clerk as required pursuant to the city code. As chair, I now officially call the City of Coral Gables Planning and Zoning Board meeting of April 10, 2024 to order. The time is 6 o'clock. Jill, if you please call the roll.
Robert Behar.
Present.
Julio Gabriel.
Here.
Sue Kowalinsky.
Here.
Felix Pardo.
Here.
Javier Salman. Chip Withers.
Yes.
A.B. Eisenstadt.
Here. Notice regarding ex parte communication. Please be advised that this board is quasi-judicial board, which requires board members to disclose all ex parte communications and site visits. An ex parte communication is defined as any contact, communication, conversation, correspondence, memorandum, or other written or verbal communication that takes place outside a public hearing between a member of the public and a member of a quasi-judicial board regarding matters to be heard by the board. If anyone made any contact with a board member regarding an issue before the board member must state on the record the existence of the ex parte communication and the party who originated the communication. Also, if a board member conducted a site visit specifically related to the case before the board member must also disclose such visit. In either case, the board member must state on the record whether the ex parte communication and/or site visit will affect the board member's ability to impartially consider the evidence to be presented regarding the matter. The board member should also state that his or her decision will be based on substantial, competent evidence and testimony presented on the record today. Does any member of the board have such communication or site visit to disclose at this time?
No.
Swearing in. Everyone who speaks this evening must complete the roster on the podium. We ask that you print clearly so the official records of your name and address will be correct. Now, with the exception of attorneys, all persons physically in the City Commission chambers who will speak on agenda items before us this evening, please rise to be sworn in. Thank you. Zoom platform participants, I will ask any person wishing to speak on tonight's agenda item to please open your chat and send a direct message to Jill Menendez stating that you would like to speak before the board and include your full name. Jill will call you when it's your turn. I ask you to be concise for the interest of time. Phone platform participants. After Zoom platform participants are done, I will ask phone participants to comment on tonight's agenda item. I will also ask you to please be concise for the interest of time. First, we have the approval of the minutes of March 13, 2024. Has everybody had a chance to read those?
I have, and have a comment. On page 116, line item number 22, Ms. Kowalski made a statement that says, yes, I want to put on the record that we have three members of this board that arbitrarily and subjectively are moving the CBD boundary. That is what this vote is all about. I want to put that on the record. And then, Mr. Chairman, you say I would disagree with you, but that's your choice. I want to say that this board did not move the CBD boundary whatsoever. We don't have the authority to move the boundary. That's a false statement, with all due respect. And we need to make sure that whatever statement this board member, any member of this board makes are correct and factual. At no point was the CBD line boundary moved. I'm a little bit surprised because I may not know much about it, but Mr. Pardo does. I wish he would have, maybe answer you, because he's very much more than I think all of us, Mr. Saman too, but we did not move the boundary line whatsoever.
Well, first of all, you weren't present at that vote, correct? You were not here. You had to
Doesn't matter.
recuse yourself from that vote.
Sue, if I may, what I ask is, Robert has made a statement which he's entitled to.
And I'm
He
commenting.
doesn't, you are, I understand. But what I ask is, let him speak, let him finish. Once he's done, please do so. But I do want to point out, and my understanding is that the member does not have to be present to make a statement on the minutes.
Excuse me. When he says "we" and he wasn't even here, that is an inaccurate statement.
That's not correct. I read the minutes that I'm entitled to read as a board member, and I see that there is a mistake. It's a false statement. I want to make the correction for the record. So the record is said correctly that this board did not move the boundary, the CBD boundary lines.
Okay, are you done? Because I'd like to comment. Are you done?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. First of all, the statement that I made was that this board subjectively and arbitrarily was trying to change the CBD boundary. That is a statement of fact. I didn't say that this board has the purview to do that or not. I said that's apparently what was happening with the 3 votes on this board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may,
Mr. Pardo?
getting back to the approval of minutes, I don't think this is the right forum to debate this. What was said was said. It's not a matter of fact whether
It's on.
is this on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think if we get back,
Agreed. Would you like to,
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes. Did you do this?
I can hear you fine. I don't know what their problem is. You were,
Chip, you turned the battery on.
I know. Well, it wasn't intentional.
All right, so getting back to approval of minutes.
yes, sir.
The minutes are the minutes. What was
Correct.
said was said.
Correct.
This is not, I don't think this is the appropriate place to debate a comment, whether it's plus or minus. It's basically a transcript of what was said.
Correct. Would you like to move on?
And I wanted to go ahead and move that. I think you can always, Robert, you could always bring up those comments as new business or whatever, but the point is that the minutes are just a transcript of what was said that day, whether you agree or disagree, whether it's false or it's not false. This is not the appropriate thing.
but-
I'm just making a motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Okay. Then we can,
But you asked if motion to approve. If there's a clarification, this is the moment.
Right.
This is a place and time to do that, not in the discussion a month from today.
And Robert, I think it's not a motion to agree. It's a motion to approve what was said. It's not a motion, just because the motion to approve the minutes doesn't mean that you may agree with the statements that were made. Is that clear enough, Mr. Chairman?
we have a motion to approve. What I'd like to do
I
is
second.
move forward. We have a second. Now I would ask Ashley if there's any comments, and I guess that would have been a time possibly for Robert to go ahead and make his comments that were on it, which he has already made, and they're on the record.
There you go.
Any other comments?
yeah, obviously we have a board member that is upset about something, and I don't quite totally understand
Because
your let's say the basis. What's your basis of the complaint?
Chip, because I wasn't here for
Right.
that vote. but the rest of the board members did not move the CBD line. That did not take place in that meeting. And what the statement clearly says is there are 3 board members that are arbitrary and subjectively moving the CBD line. You didn't do that. And I just want to set the record straight
Right.
that did not take place. You, who was here, should have been, concerned about it because you did not move the CBD line.
Right.
There was
Right.
no vote to move the CBD line.
And
I got it.
And as I said in my statement, the vote, apparently, the intention of that vote from 3 members was to arbitrarily and subjectively move the CBD line. I never said that this board had the purview or didn't have the purview to do that. I said 3 members of this board on their
Why don't I
own,
read it back to you?
subjectively tried to move the boundary.
Sue, if I'd like to move the meeting forward. We have a motion. We have a second. Can we take the roll, please?
Julio Gabriel,
Yes.
Sue Kavinsky,
Yes.
Felix Pardo,
Yes.
Javier Salman,
As to a proper record of the meeting that we had, yes.
Chip Withers,
Yep.
Robert Behar,
No.
A.B. Eisenstadt.
Yes. Before the first item is read into the record, Mr. Behar?
Mr. Chairman, I will request to recuse myself. The item coming up is a project, it's an item from my office. Therefore, I will ask to be, to step out and recuse myself.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Chair,
What I'd like to do, if I may, is Jill needs a chair. Can I ask Javier to come sit to my right, please? And then if everybody shifts down one chair, Jill, you can take Chip's chair.
okay, but I do have a comment on recusal. Did Mr. Behar ever fill out one of these forms when he recuses himself in these meetings? This is part of the law, and I have never seen him fill out one of these, nor has it been made available to this board.
Well, we'll ask the legal department to take a look at what has been
The
filled out.
the clerk has those forms. Anybody that recuses themselves as a conflict has to file that state form.
I understand that, but it has to be made available to the board. We've never received a recusal form.
Well, I believe that you just simply get it from the clerk's office, and it's available to you.
Well, it doesn't say that we have to ask for it. It's supposed to be given to us. It says right here what the rules are.
Well, I'll ask the clerk to provide copies so that you have them available to you, so that if and when you need a recusal, you'll have the form.
Yeah, but I mean, the filled out form is what we need per the rules.
But no, you have
These aren't
to,
my rules. These are the rules set forward in this form.
right, you're to fill out that form.
I'm not saying if I want to recuse myself, any board member that recuses himself or
Has to
herself
fill that
has to
form
fill
out.
out a form, and
Correct.
it has to be made available to the board members. We've never received this.
Well, my understanding, the matter of course, is that if you do recuse yourself, you go to the clerk's office, you get the form. But for convenience, for the members, I will ask the clerk's office to distribute copies of the form, so if and when there's an occasion where you need to recuse yourself, rather than having to go down to the clerk to get the form, you'll have the form available to you.
Okay, but Mr. Collier, I'm saying whoever fills out this form, I know it should be on the record, but by this form, it says it has to be distributed. The completed form has to be distributed to the board.
He will do that. Mr.
Okay,
Collier
but
just said
he's
he will
saying
do that.
if we want to recuse ourselves, I'm saying if somebody else recuses himself, that form completed must be provided to the board. We've never gotten one from Mr. Behar.
It comes from the clerk. So
Whoever it comes from, we never got it.
Okay.
Mr. Collier will look into it and make
Okay.
sure the board gets it.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I ask, Javier, would you mind, please, just moving over? Thank you. If everybody just shifts one down, Jill will be able to have a chair.
Everybody move.
Please. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's cooperation. While we're shifting down, Mr. Collier,
Yes.
can you go ahead and read the, oh, sorry about that. Can you go ahead and read the first agenda item into the record.
Right, okay, well, the first
Or the first
agenda
6.
item consists of 6 items. I'm going to read all items in, and then we'll have a hearing, a single hearing on all the items, and then we'll vote separately on each of the items. Item E1, an ordinance of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, amending the future land use map of the City of Coral Gables Comprehensive Plan pursuant to Zoning Code, Article 14, Process, Section 14-213, Comprehensive Plan Text and Map Amendments, and Small-Scale Amendment Procedures, Section 163.3187 Florida statutes, from commercial low-rise intensity to commercial mid-rise intensity for a portion of Tract A and lots 27 through 31, Block 156, Riviera Section, Part 8, 1250 South Dixie Highway, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for a repeal of provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Item E2, an ordinance of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, making zoning district boundary changes pursuant to Zoning Code, Article 14, Process, Section 14-212, Zoning Code Text and Map Amendments from Mixed Use 1 MX1 to Mixed Use 2 MX2 for a portion of Tract A and lots 27 through 31, Block 156, Riviera Section, Part 8, 1250 South Dixie Highway, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for repeal of provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Item E3, an ordinance of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, providing for text amendment to the City of Coral Gables Official Zoning Code, Appendix A, Site-Specific Zoning Regulations, Section A-83, Riviera Section, Part 8, to remove lots 27 through 31, Block 156, from the floor area ratio, FAR, and building height limitations to allow for an increase in FAR and building height provided by the underlying zoning, Riviera Section, Part 8, 1250 South Dixie Highway, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for repeal of provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Excuse me. Item E4, an ordinance of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, approving the vacation of a public alleyway pursuant to Zoning Code, Article 14, Process, Section 14-211, abandonment and vacations in the City Code, Chapter 62, Article 8, vacation, abandonment, and closure of streets, easements, alleys by private owners and the city application process, providing for the vacation of the 45-foot wide alley, which is approximately 125 feet in length, lying between Tract A and lots 27 through 31, Block 156, Riviera Section, Part 8, 1250 South Dixie Highway, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for repeal of provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Item E5, an ordinance of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, approving a planned area development PAD pursuant to Zoning Code, Article 14, Process, Section 14-206, General Procedures for Planned Area Development for a proposed mixed-use project referred to as the MARC, on the property legally described as a portion of Tract A, together with lots 27 through 31, and together with that portion of the 45-foot platted alley, Block 156, Riviera Section, Part 8, 1250 South Dixie Highway, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for repeal of provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Item E6, a resolution of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, approving a mixed-use site plan review pursuant to Zoning Code, Article 14, Process, Section 14-203, conditional uses for a proposed mixed-use project, including live-work units referred to as the MARC, on the property legally described as portion of Tract A, together with lots 27 through 31, and together with that portion of the 45-foot platted alley, Block 156, Riviera Section, Part 8, 1250 South Dixie Highway, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for a repeal provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Item E1 through E6, public hearing.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Ms. Russo?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record.
Good morning.
Did I say good morning? Oh, God. Long day, sorry. Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, Laura Russo with offices at 2334 Ponce de Leon Boulevard. I am here this evening representing LCD Acquisitions, Inc., the applicant, before you today. I'd like to introduce the team. On behalf of LCD Acquisitions, I have Mr. Eric Leaf and Mr. Brian Boyles, our planning consultant, Mr. Eric Reel of ePlanning, our architect, Javier Font of Behar Font and Partners, our landscape architect, Jeremy Todaro of Whitkin Holtz and Partners, and our traffic engineer, Juan Espinosa of David Plummer and Associates. We are here this evening to present a mixed-use project for the redevelopment of the University Shopping Center located at 1250 South Dixie Highway. I will now turn the podium over to Mr. Eric Reel and during his presentation to Mr. Javier Font to take you through the project.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, before I'm going to ask Mr. Eric Leaf to give you just a little bit of background on the applicant so you have a little feel for the applicant. Mr. Eric Leaf.
Hi, Eric Leith, Landmark Properties, which is the owner of LCD Acquisitions. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. Very excited about this potential project. Landmark is a national developer and owner of rental housing. We're a full-service company, meaning that not only are we a developer, we're also a property manager, general contractor, and a long-term holder of our assets. We currently own and manage the standard Coral Gables, so we are already active in this community and hope to expand that with this project as well. So any questions for me as this goes on, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Reel, welcome back. I guess this time's on the other side of the podium.
I've been on both sides, actually. So just for the record, Eric Reel, planning consultant for the team. So I have a thorough presentation. It's somewhat lengthy, but I want to make sure that you get a good overview of the project this evening. So I do have title slides, so I'm just going to go, I'm not going to go through each title slide, but let's see if I can, pointer's working, okay. So it's a University Center Retail Shopping Center, 1250 South Dixie Highway. Let me just orient you a little bit. And again, this pointer is a little bit off. So Madruga Avenue, this is the Villa Capri condominiums. What's shown in red is the project site. Mariposa Court, University Metro Rail Station, and then you obviously have the US 1 pedestrian bridge. Then you have the University of Miami offices, high-rise offices. So University Shopping Center has been around since like 1950. It's probably one of the first retail strip shopping centers. If you look on some of the old University of Miami maps, it's the only thing you'll see on US 1, so it's been around a long time. It's currently occupied by restaurants, small retail services, has obviously a large parking lot in front, and the site is about 3.1 acre in size. So in terms of the adjacent land uses, as I indicated, US pedestrian bridge, the Metro Rail Station, and then obviously the underlined Phase 3, and then the University of Miami campus. Okay. On the Mariposa Court side, you have the Citibank. You have a restaurant space that's actually vacant. TGI Fridays was in there, but it's vacant at this time. Then you have the drive-through, which is the back of the bank area. And then this is just a view of Mariposa Court and then the drive-through across the street. So in terms of Madruga Avenue, which is the rear of the property, this is a view, sorry. This is a view looking from Mariposa Court, obviously the back of the center. Proceeding further south, these three photographs on the bottom are the rear of the Villa Capri condominiums. They actually have parking spaces that back into the Madruga Avenue, which is a 30-foot right-of-way. Also, their entrance to their parking garages in the rear as well. So on the southwest property line is the University of Miami office tower. It's approximately 150 feet in height. Then across the street, as I indicated, is the Metro Rail station. And this is just a view from the Madruga Avenue back of the University of Miami. So it's a mid-rise mixed-use residential project. Our request is for change in comp plan, zoning map, text, alley abandonment, PAD zoning, conditional mixed-use site plan to also allow live-work units. 8 floors is the proposal, 97 feet. We're creating a garden paseo, which I'll go into some more detail. It's actually between 2 buildings, 2 separate buildings, 125 units an acre, which is the allowable density per the zoning code. We're going to hopefully construct 393 residential apartments. They vary 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. They vary in size from 507 feet to the largest being 1,452. In terms of the ground floor uses, there's 12 live-work units, about 20,000 square feet retail restaurant, and then some office space. And the total number of spaces within the garage is about approximately 700 spaces. So just kind of give you an idea, 1-level underground parking. Ground floor will have the retail restaurant. 2 through 4 will be internal vehicle parking in the apartments. 5th floor has the apartments, pedestrian bridge, again, within 2 buildings, within 2 separate buildings. Floors 6 and 7 are apartments. 8th floor will have the apartments, pool, spa, outdoor, rooftop amenities. And then floors 2 through 8 will be wrapped by residential units. I'm going to lose my voice eventually. So I want to go through just in terms of the land planning and architectural design, the mobility and transportation improvements. And there's 6 of those that I'm going to go through in fairly detail, and also open space, green space. So in terms of the project design, we're going to create 4 building front faces with penetrating architectural features on all sides. Numerous architectural elements, balconies, step backs, and Javier is going to go over that in a little bit. And again, the ground floor, the street frontage and the paseo is wrapped entirely by retail, restaurant, office uses, as well as the live-work uses. All on-site operations, all the vehicle parking, all loading, deliveries, including deliveries for the residents, large trucks, Amazon, FedEx, all internal. There's a separate trash recycling room, fully enclosed room on the rear of the property as well. There's no rear back of house uses, which you typically see in a development. And then we obviously will be undergrounding all overhead utilities. So what I want to do is just go through briefly and then turn over to Javier to talk a little bit about the architecture, is just kind of orient you on the site. Okay. All right. So the top is US 1, South Dixie. This is the first building here, and then you have the second building. It's bifurcated by a garden, what I'm calling a garden paseo, 56 feet wide, 326 feet in length. It's open to the sky. There's no ceiling or anything like that. Totally open to the sky. Retail restaurant on these 2 sides here. Then we have office. And as you can see, this is the ground floor plate, interior parking. And again, proceeding through the paseo. And then these are the live-work units. As you can see, they wrap around the back of Madruga on both sides. And then the paseo kind of flares out when it gets towards the residential. Again, this is a Villa Capri condominiums, and what you see, these spaces here are their spaces that back into the street. In terms of what I want to call back of house, FP&L vaults, those are over here, the electrical, and they're over here. But again, the entire building is wrapped, and everything is pretty much internal to the development. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Javier. He's going to go briefly through some of the architectural elements, and then I'm going to come back up and finish my presentation.
Good morning, apparently. Javier Font, Behar Font and Partners, 4533 Ponce de Leon Boulevard. I want to take just a couple minutes because Eric told me I don't have much time to explain to you the design intent behind the building and sort of the big strokes of what we tried to do here. So we're all familiar with this site. We all know that it's probably one of the best sites in Coral Gables and South Florida. So the mandate from the ownership group was to design a legacy property that they could hold for as long as they could, see into the future, and something that would become part of the fabric of Coral Gables and contribute to the fabric of Coral Gables. So that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to be as true to the Mediterranean code as possible. And in doing so, we did a lot of research and a lot of study on historical Mediterranean buildings, and specifically the Biltmore. And I don't want to compare ourselves or our building to probably one of the most beautiful historical buildings in the world, but we did look at it in context and in its style and what it does in terms of architecture. So I know that after that introduction, it's very hard to start a building talking about parking, but that's exactly what I want to do. One of the things that we've tried to do here, and one of the things that we noticed in Mediterranean buildings is that you don't see the parking in Mediterranean buildings, right? You don't see what we've become so accustomed to, which is these podium buildings where you get a little bit of retail on the ground floor, get 3 or 4 floors of parking right up to the street, poorly screened, and then you step back your tower just because you're so imposing on the property. So we have concealed 700 parking spaces in this building where you don't see one parking space, right? It's all internal. This has forced us to do several things. We've got a basement, and we ended up, instead of ending up with 2 or 3 floors of parking, we've ended up with 5 levels of internalized parking. But as Eric started to point out, it is 100% lined by units. So on the ground floor, you either have a lobby, some sort of amenity, a restaurant, a retail component, something of that nature that addresses the street and brings eyes to the street and activity to the street. And then the next 7 levels are apartments. So all 8 facades are front facades. There is no back facade. We try to be as sensitive to our neighbors as possible. And if you look at our site, obviously we've got 3 streets, which we need to be sensitive to. And we even got some comments as to, you can turn your back to the building. But once you drive the site, you notice that as you come down US 1, that's probably one of the most prominent facades because the building is stepped back to the point where that entire facade is visible as you're traveling northbound on US 1. So that was sort of the biggest stroke in our design was how do we enclose this parking, how do we turn our best face forward, and how do we create a building that has all facades. One of the other things that we try to do is create this public space that Eric began to talk about, and it is basically, as you know, in the code, we need to provide a 20-foot paseo from one street to the other. So we basically go through our property, east to west, and what we've done is increase that space to as much as 60 feet, so 3 times the requirement to try and get a true public space there, to try and get a space where we can open up restaurants, we can open up our lobbies, and we can have activity in that space and connect the neighborhood to whatever services we're going to use on US 1. So that was a huge feature, which also created some issues in our building, but that we were able to overcome. We do push up to the setback on Mariposa and on the side, but nobody's going to use that space on the side between us and and that space is obviously much better used within our paseo. And lastly, I think you'll hear a little bit about step backs and setbacks. And this is one of the things that we learned about the Mediterranean buildings that we looked at. And if you look at the Biltmore, let's say, you've got 6-story, 8-story, 12 stories, 15-story components, but they are all true to themselves. They all come down to the ground. They all address the street, and they come up vertically. They don't step back. As I said before, that became a very important part of our code when we started to see these buildings that have the layer of parking that is so imposing. It really doesn't allow itself for a true Mediterranean building, which is, a more European feel building where the entire facade is active and it sits on the street and creates that fabric for the street. And that is what we're trying to create here. So I hope that you see that, and I make myself available for any questions you may have. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Well, while he was speaking, I was showing these. Let me just go back to the last one. I wanted to explain something. So this is a view from actually the Villa Capri condominium that's behind. I wanted to show you that obviously the tree cover that's there, and it is hiding the building. So we did do a rendering that doesn't include the trees. So I just wanted you to see that so we can get a good idea in terms of what the building looks like against the street. So proceeding onward, and again, as Javier talked about, architectural detailing. So then we go into mobility and transportation improvements. That's one of the things that was very, very important to us from the start. Obviously, given the fact that we're across the street from the Metro Rail, a regional transit system that has access to literally anywhere in the state. So just let me talk about some of the improvements that promote mobility. So obviously we have ground floor loggias, protection from the elements. We have a 10 to 30 foot clear path or pedestrian sidewalk on all four sides of the building. And actually the frontage on US 1 has a 20 to 30 foot sidewalk, which is unheard of anywhere. Actually, you won't find that anywhere on US 1. Bicycle storage is very important to us. So ground floor has short-term parking. There's numerous bicycle racks. Total of 136 bicycle spaces throughout the entire development. In terms of vehicle access to the property, we're going to use the existing US 1 driveway and then creating 2 new driveways on the Madruga Avenue side. One thing that we're doing is eliminating the 2 existing Mariposa Court driveways, which here's a photograph of where they are located. And this is the US 1 access point. So just by removing that, we're removing an unsafe, vehicular turning movements because, as we know, when people waiting to get the traffic queue out of the intersection of US 1, we're also eliminating pedestrian conflicts for those individuals that obviously are going to the pedestrian bridge. So in terms of the outreach that we've done, input, what I call conversations, we've went with, all the multifamily properties behind, neighborhood residents, interested parties. And as a part of that whole process, it was a really good process. And I can tell you it started in June 2023. As a part of that, I think we have a better project here. That collaborative effort really worked on behalf of the project. So I'd like to go through some of the improvements that were from the neighborhood as well as from the team, as well as from city staff as well. So just showing you, this is a pedestrian path, bicycle pathway, just showing you kind of the locations of the bicycle racks, strategically located, obviously, in places where they'll actually hopefully be used. So one of the things that we're doing is we're creating what I'm going to call a mobility boulevard. It's a 10-foot wide mobility boulevard. This is in addition to the 8-foot sidewalk that we have adjacent to our building. So essentially it's 18 feet of pedestrian pathway from Madruga Avenue all the way up to basically the pedestrian bridge. The idea is obviously to provide safe, direct, ADA accessible, connection, bicyclists, inline skaters, wheelchair users, joggers, scooters, to the pedestrian bridge, easy access to the underline when it's finished, and again, to the regional, the regional Metro Rail system. So I want to show you, it's kind of difficult to see because unfortunately the header from the city is blocking. The mobility starts right on this corner. I don't know if they can remove the header. Oh, thank you. So this is basically the mobility boulevard. It starts right here and it goes right along the property edge and then obviously ends right in front of the pedestrian bridge. And then you can see the 8-foot sidewalk. It's not working too well, right? Down that point. So we have 18 feet essentially. So this is a section view of it. To orient you, this is Madruga. And then obviously this is the Mariposa Court, the beginning here, and then this is the side of the building, and then the terminus is back and forth to the pedestrian bridge. And you can kind of see the profile, a very wide planting strip. This thing's not working at all. And then again, the 10-foot wide mobility boulevard, then in the opposite direction as well. One of the other things in terms of additional connections, there's actually not a sidewalk. This is the corner of Mariposa Court and Madruga, so we're going to install a sidewalk. excuse me, a crosswalk. And this is a plan in forms. We're going to also include a sidewalk adjacent to the Villa Capri condominiums to, again, make the connection to the mobility boulevard for pedestrians. And then I'll talk about Sharrows in a little bit. These are just some views of what's there right now. There's essentially nothing. If you want to walk, you're walking in the street. So in terms of the neighborhood connections, one of the things that we're proffering is shared lane markings. And what I have here is the actual Coral Gables bicycle master plan as the underlay. So our proposal is to basically fulfill or fill in part of the master plan. So start on US 1 and follow, you see this large dashed green line all to Minata, all the way up to US 1. And then this little connection adjacent to the Villa Capri. So it's our intention to include the pavement markings and whatnot to install a Sharrow. So what I did to kind of get an idea of the three things I just went over, created this little master plan here that kind of shows you all the improvements. Again, the Sharrow down this direction, again, the mobility boulevard, and then the pedestrian connection with the project being right here. So the idea is to provide connections from the neighborhood, safe, convenient connection to the Metro Rail, which hopefully people will use. So in terms of that, the new mobility boulevard, the crosswalk, the first to last mile, it's basically the improvements will greatly enhance the ability to basically go from your home or point of origin to your destination. It's kind of interesting. If you look at the numbers, like 25% of the riders that ride Metro Rail have to ride it for a reason, which I thought, when I found out that number, I thought it was relatively low. I thought it was more. I was kind of surprised at that number. So hopefully, if this project is approved, that number will increase. So one of the other things that came out from a lot of the neighborhood meetings, and I think this is a great idea from an urban planner standpoint, it's an issue that we have to grapple with citywide. I don't care whatever you provide, Amazon and FedEx are going to stop wherever they want. They stop and they're going to drop a package off. We have internally, we're going to have, hopefully everybody will be dropping off their packages internally. But one of the things that, this was a concern that was brought up by the neighbors because Madruga is only 30-foot right-of-way. It's not 60-foot. It's not your typical 60-foot right-of-way. It's a substandard right-of-way. So one of the things that we created was we're going to repurpose the existing 3 spaces on the street and create a ride-share small commercial vehicle loading and unloading area. It's actually an 8 by 98-foot area, and it's going to be next to our lobby, convenient for hopefully that FedEx truck and that Amazon truck, and then if you're going to ride Uber or Lyft, have that ability to get off the street. And we think that's a real bonus for obviously the users as well as the project. So what I did is just a quick plan. So this is the project right here, the mark, and then you see the mobility boulevard and then the 8-foot pedestrian path. This is the area right now where the 3 spaces are. So essentially this area would be reconfigured into a curb management basically program to have this ability for these folks to hopefully, like I said, get off the street. And this is an actual view adjacent to the former Fridays where those spaces are. Another thing that we heard from the neighbors is it's very difficult to walk down Madruga Avenue behind the UM building. There's not a sidewalk. It's just paving from the street edge all the way essentially up to the property line of UM. So one of the things that we're going to do is install a sidewalk and some landscaping and some basically reflective rumble strips. So we'll have a dedicated area for pedestrians to walk so they don't have to walk in the street. We think that's a real plus in terms of providing a clearly delineated, safe pedestrian path. There are some challenges because there are a number of utilities back there. So, there will be some challenges, but we've committed to put in that sidewalk. And this just gives you an idea in terms of plan view. These are the rumble strips, and this just gives you an idea of what the area looks like right now. It's not very attractive. So we're going to actually connect to the thesis project. So it'll be the same type of improvements on our project and the connection through to the thesis. Traffic calming. So again, we heard a lot of concerns from the neighbors about the impacts of vehicle speed. So one of the things that we're proffering is the installation of a speed table on Madruga Avenue. There's actually one there, but I think it's probably been there like 30 years. And it's not really up to the standard, the typical standard of a speed table. And again, the new sidewalk I indicated, the crosswalk, and then city staff, Public Works has asked us for a speed cushion. They also asked us to remove some of the asphalt and reduce the travel lanes, which hopefully then will also slow down traffic. So we've also agreed to that as well. So open space. We talked about the Paseo. So the Paseo that's going through the middle of the project is 0.43 acres in size. That's a large Paseo. This room is about 40 feet wide, so to give you an idea, add another 20 feet to that. 56 feet long, 326 feet in length. Again, it's open to the sky between the two buildings. The PAD requires 20% open space. With the Paseo and all the improvements, we're going to have about 27% open space. This is just an illustration of the ground floor landscaping. And in terms of the amenities, numerous benches, obviously receptacles, bike racks, the mobility boulevard. One of the things that we also thought was very important, we're creating a dog-friendly site as well. So we're going to have dog amenities, dog fountain. We thought that was really important because obviously everybody has a dog. So, in terms of, there's also a water feature, and then as I indicated, the ride share is on this side as well. On the 5th floor, there's amenity decks. As Javier indicated, 2, 3, and 4 are parking. 5th floor is amenity deck. And then on the top floor, this is US 1. We located the pool facing US 1. There are no rooftop, anything on the rear except for the residential. We're very cognizant of the fact that we didn't want to impact the adjacent multifamily residential. So the pool, and this is just like a kind of a grassy area for outdoor exercise. In terms of streetscape sections, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail. It's a typical streetscape section. We meet the code requirements in terms of the landscaping, in terms of the height and the amount. Treatments, benches, receptacles. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. One of the things that we did with the Paseo is we created what I'm going to call 4 different zones. So as you go from US 1 back to the residential, it becomes from an more urban area to a more heavily landscaped area. So zone 1 is essentially right next to US 1, what we're calling an urban courtyard. 2 is a hospitality courtyard, which is next to the restaurants. Amenity garden, which is essentially, it's in the middle. And then zone 4 is next to the live-work units, which are on both of these sides. Just gives you an idea of some of the character imagery. And then these are some renderings. This is a US 1 view. As you can see, I think Javier mentioned there's a pedestrian bridge that crosses on the 5th floor. This is a view of that. Again, this is all open to the sky. This is a rendering just from the ground level, and you can again see the bridge in the background there. This is in zone 2, kind of viewing in towards the center of the area of the Paseo. Again, zone 2, as you can see the overhead bridge there, again open to the sky. This is actually in the center, zone 3. Basically where the lobby area is. And then zone 4, center, still the center of Paseo. And then this is a view of the Madruga Avenue side to the center of the Paseo. As you can see, it's much more heavily landscaped than you saw on the US 1 side. And this is actually a view from actually being on Madruga Avenue into the space or zone 4. And just another view. and kind of a heading down view. So again, it's open to the sky. As you can see, the amount of landscaping, overstory landscaping, significant amounts. So in terms of the application request, I'm going to go through this really fast. Comp plan amendment, small scale, zoning code amendment, text amendment, abandonment, PAD, conditional use site plan. Change in zoning request, we're asking for commercial low-rise, from commercial low-rise intensity to mid-rise intensity, which is from 50 feet to 77 within the 2 floors of Mediterranean bonus. With the mid-rise intensity, our desire is to get 97 feet with a 2-floor med bonus with a total of 8 floors. So I did a thorough analysis, which is in your packet. It's about 16 or 18 pages of analysis of the comp plan. I'm not going to go into this detail on this, but the findings are that we meet numerous goals and objectives with the design in terms of the housing and mobility, recreation, and open space. Zoning map amendment, the request is for MXD 1 to 2, which is 45 feet to 77 feet for the MX1. Our proposal is to go to MX2, again, 97, 8 floors. And just kind of in context, this is the property right here. This is the UM building, and then this is the thesis project, which is zoned MX3. And again, just a little blow up. Again, this is the project here, US1, MX1 zoning, and then the multifamily condominiums, or MF3, to the rear. This gives you an idea in terms of the height comparison to the UM building. UM building is about 150 feet, so obviously it's about 53 feet more in height than what we're requesting. And this gives you a little bit of idea of what the MXD1 line would be right there, and then the same thing down here on the bottom. And then on this side, you can see there are the thesis project as well. Zoning map amendment, again, we feel it's consistent, it satisfies the intent and purpose, and everything that's applicable, we feel that we've satisfied or consistent and not exceed the requirements. Findings of fact, one thing I would note that is in the zoning code is the MXD district, which allows the highest intensity development, this is verbatim from the code, is located in the city's downtown area along North Ponce, Biltmore Way, South Dixie, and Route 1. The zoning code of Coral Gables says the most appropriate use on US 1 is MXD3. So we are requesting MXD2. So we're not going to basically what the zoning code intends for that area. Again, just a comparison. Zoning map, findings of fact, we're not asking for any density bonuses, 125 units an acre, which is permitted, adequate infrastructure, and then I'll talk a little bit about the traffic. I know the city's traffic consultant's here, but I'll talk a little bit about that later. Zoning code text amendment, site-specific standards need to be updated because they've been there since like the 1930s or 40s. The idea was that whenever a project comes through, they would be updated on a case-by-case basis, obviously to meet the needs of whatever the proposal is before you all. So the abandonment of the alley, there's this alley that is essentially on this one corner. This is Mariposa Court right here. It's 125 by 45 feet. It's not an alley. It's almost like a small parcel. It doesn't really even align with the remainder of the block that was abandoned years ago in the 1930s and 40s. It's what I would call a remnant. It's been there, as best we can see, since 1950. There's no through access. It doesn't attach to anything. It's literally parking spaces and landscape island within the parking lot. So the PAD application, the only reason we filed the PAD application, be quite honest with you, is we needed some variations in the step backs on the building. There's some penetration between 2 to 5 feet. That was actually approved as a part of the Board of Architects review and approval. PAD, we feel it satisfies. Obviously, we're only asking for the step back issue. Conditional use, mixed-use site plan, again, 8 floors, 393 units. Live work requires a conditional use as well, pursuant to your code, so that's what the request is for. So in terms of the analysis, we feel it complies and advances the zoning code requirements. And again, I'm not going to get into this. In terms, again, it satisfies 125 dwelling units per acre. And then the city's traffic consultant, one of the notations is most of the intersections will be able to maintain similar traffic conditions in reference to baseline conditions. As a result, the proposed redevelopment of the mark is not expected to have a negative impact on the surrounding road network. So I'm just going to go briefly into, really fast, the way I think you all understand, the city hires the traffic consultant to complete the traffic analysis, and the developer or the applicant pays for it. As a part of that process, which began like in, I want to say, October, as I told you, we started outreach in June of 2023. One of the things that we heard from the neighbors is, obviously, they feel that the project will have additional traffic impacts. Questions arose in terms of pedestrian and vehicle conflicts. So in response to that and hearing from the neighbors, we increased the TIA, or the traffic impact study area, to include an additional intersection. We also asked for PED counts. We also asked for pedestrian vehicle conflicts, and we asked them to examine crash data and vehicular crash data analysis. All that stuff was included in the scope of work. Again, this is beyond the typical requirements of the TIA. So the 5 intersections that were looked into are listed here, and the additional one was basically an additional intersection further back into the neighborhood. Okay. All right, battery's not working now. You can go to the next slide. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's good. So in terms of the traffic study, I'm not going to go through this, but basically it's a typical information they look at. Geometric conditions, impact on the area. They look at traffic growth of committed developments that are already approved. They do micro-simulation of AM and peak travel peak periods, and then they come up with recommendations for to mitigate the possible impacts. Oh, now it's working again. Hold on a second. We skipped one thing here. So let me skip this slide. One of the things I wanted to mention is that when the traffic consultant did it, this sort of city, they took the most conservative scenario trip forecast generations rate. I want to make sure that's clear, because we heard from a lot of the neighbors that we didn't take the most conservative. The city's traffic consultant didn't take the most conservative approach. They did take the most conservative approach. So just kind of highlight some of the findings. The city's traffic consultants the project will have a nominal increase in traffic demands and delays. The analysis showed that during future conditions, most of the intersections will be able to operate within an acceptable level of service or maintain similar conditions. Also, signal retiming was one of the things that was suggested as a recommendation. We've agreed to do that. Obviously, signal timing can't be done. If the project's approved, it can't be done until after the project is done, but we have certainly agreed to do that. So just kind of in conclusion, based upon the findings of the traffic study, the proposed redevelopment of the mark, it's concluded that most of the intersections will be able to maintain similar conditions in reference to baseline conditions. And the proposed redevelopment mark is not expected to have a negative impact on the surrounding roadway network after implementing the recommendations provided in the report. So let me just go through Board of Architects. We went to the Board of Architects 3 times. We took, there's an opportunity to do a conceptual Board of Architect review. We took that opportunity. It was great. Got some great input. They were actually very supportive. They said the project was well organized from a land planning standpoint. They complimented the architect on the design, the internalization, the support services, everything inside. So we went back about a month or 2 later with that input. Actually, the first meeting, they gave us the development bonuses for the 2 floors, and they actually were going to approve of that meeting, but they asked for some additional detailing, so we just came back one more time. And again, this happened in August, September, October, November. And a lot of the design and some of the additional fenestration that was asked for was put in there at a request of the neighbors. So I just want to make sure that this was a total collaborative process throughout the design as well as the land planning process. So public outreach. We started public outreach in June of 2023. I had a lot of one-on-one meetings with neighbors. We had a lot of smaller, larger group meetings. I actually did walk around with the residents. We actually, in January, offered an additional HOA meeting. We met with the Villa Capri Homeowners Association. We met with interested neighbors. We met with the Royal Caribbean, which is the condominium to the north of the intersection. We did the required city meeting. We had about 50 people attend. We felt that we didn't give enough opportunity. It was only an hour or two, so we held a second meeting so those folks would come back and again provide us their input. Neighbors participated in the process throughout the Board of Architects, the DRC, and we actually went to the Traffic Advisory Board as well as a courtesy to present the project. I can tell you, I personally have given everyone the traffic impact report, the applications, the plans, anybody that wanted them, I gave them full copies. And we did that throughout the entire process. And the notification was a typical 1,500 feet. And as a part of this process, I mean, the conversations we had, again, I call them conversations, I think it resulted in a much higher quality project. I think the design, the input we received from the neighbor we had a better design. And I think the 6 things that I mentioned in terms of mobility, those were a result, again, of the neighbors, the city staff, and as well as the team. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks.
Laura?
I just want to make sure you're aware we have reviewed staff's quite extensive report along with all the conditions contained therein and the clarifications to those conditions that you received this evening. I want to let you know that we accept them. We're perfectly okay with them. And on behalf of LCD Acquisitions, we respectfully request the approval of this project at the mark. We are more than happy to answer questions, and Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request rebuttal in the event it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Good evening, Jennifer Garcia, City Planner. Have the PowerPoint, please. Thank you. All right, so today we are reviewing 6 requests. Comprehensive plan map amendment, zoning map amendment, as they're both related to the height, zoning code text amendment, the vacation of the alley, pad designation, and conditional use. So as we are, after thorough presentation by the applicant, I think we know exactly where we are. We are southeast of US 1, between Mariposa and Madruga. So you can see it's kind of the last piece of that long tract A. And then here is the context. As you know, it's across US 1 from University of Miami, University Station, Metro Station. It's right next to Gables 1 tower. It's across the street also from the underline, the pedestrian bridge, and then kind of abutting close to some condominiums in the rear. So the current future land use designation is commercial low-rise intensity, and the zoning is MX1. So these are some shots of the existing conditions. The top picture is showing, looking at from US 1 to the property. The bottom picture is showing that pedestrian bridge that goes over US 1. The top picture here is actually showing the view looking from Mariposa Court into the property. And if you look at that bump out right there, landscape bump out, that's actually part of the alley that we didn't know about until a few months ago. So we'll talk about that in a second. And then the Mariposa Court meeting Madruga Avenue is the bottom picture. So again, there are 6 requests. I'll go through each of those. So the first request is a change of land use from commercial low-rise intensity to commercial mid-rise intensity. So you can see that the reddish color gets darker. And the zoning code map amendment is changing the zoning from MX1 to MX2. This is really just about the height. The density and the FAR stay the same. It's really about 2 additional stories, or 20 feet. This is a massing is showing the existing potential development. So the property is there outlined in the black dashed line, and that's on the left side. I can show this there. This is the property right now. The land use is low rise there, and the zoning is MX1. It's next to the city bank, that would be the potential of that property. And it's also next to the Gables 1 tower. This white box that's poking out is showing beyond what they're allowed to have right now if they would redevelop. So they're proposing to change the land use to mid-rise intensity, which you show here on the right side. This is the development potential. It's not what they're proposing. This is just a massing diagram, also next to the city bank existing. And here is the Gables 1 tower. And the third request is zoning code text amendment to the site specifics of their property to remove themselves from the height and FAR limitations, and also to clean up the setbacks, as US 1 now has a mandatory setback of 20 feet. And this is the vacation of the alley. So the alley, if you look here, this is US 1, this is Mariposa, and there's a little remnant of an alley that was left after a couple of replats in the area. You can see that there. And then the fifth request is a planned area development, or a PAD designation. So part of this request, as they mentioned, is to have relief on some of the step backs that they're encroaching into on the corners of the building. And the reason behind that is really to create a more architecturally pleasing massing, right? So part of that request is to provide some public benefits to the neighborhood. So what they're providing as today is the paseo that you can see here in the middle. You know exactly where that is right now. They're also providing sidewalks from their property to connect to the thesis project, or the paseo project, speed cushions, and redoing the intersection here at Mariposa and Hardy, a bike boulevard markings connecting US 1 where it meets Caballero all the way through Mariposa, and over here where US 1 meets Madruga. Not Madruga. Mainada, thank you. There's a lot of M's. Thank you. And so also, as he's talked about, there's a sidewalk extension on the northeast side of the Villa Capri block, and that Mobility Boulevard. So this is probably very hard and difficult to read, but it's in your packets. The existing lot property is about 32,000 square feet. They're requesting to vacate that main dead-end alley, which is about 5,600 square feet. So total of their building site is 137,997 square feet, or a little over 3 acres. So they are proposing to change the zoning to MX1, the land use designation from low-rise to mid-rise. Their total FAR is actually under what they could have, which is at 3.13 FAR. And if they're allowed to change the land use and zoning, their maximum height would no longer be at 6 stories, it would be at 8 stories. And no longer at 77 feet, but at 97 feet. So again, the difference of 20 feet. They're proposing to be just under their density maximum at 393 units. Ground floor uses at a little over 8%, which is the minimum amount required for mixed use. and parking a little over 700 spaces. An open space, about 27% when they're required to have 20%. So, and lastly, this is the mixed-use site plan. This is required for any property that's greater than 20,000 square feet, and they're also proposing to have live-work units, which also requires the conditional use review. So just to remind you, everything is on the site plan. You have your US 1 parking egress and egress right here. You have the setback on US 1 with the restaurant and retail uses. You have commercial flex space here on Mariposa, along with the cycle track mobility boulevard. You have the ride share delivery area right here. And you have two other egress and ingress into the parking garage off of Madruga. So DRC reviewed this project twice, actually. First June of last year, and then again November. November was just to review the alley that we pointed out in June, the alley remnant that's still there as far as the plat. The Board of Architects reviewed this in 3 times and gave approval in November. They had 2 neighborhood meetings that were required by code that they reached out for 1,500 feet, and that was in January and February of this year. And here we are tonight for planning and zoning. They'll be required to go to City Commission for first and second reading. Again, this is the map that shows all the properties within 1,500 feet, which is required whenever you're changing the land use. And that was sent out 3 times for both neighborhood meetings and planning and zoning, tonight's meeting. The property was posted 4 times. For DRC twice, Board of Architects, and tonight's meeting. The website was posted 4 times as well, and tonight's meeting was advertised with a newspaper. So staff determined that this application is consistent with the comp plan goals, objectives, and policies that relates to mixed-use buildings, providing housing next to the metro rail and transit. And you can see that recommendation, and you can see those findings of facts in your staff report. Staff recommends approval with conditions, and those conditions are also in your staff report at the very end. These are highlights of those conditions of approval. So the traffic calming would include a crosswalk at Mariposa Court and Madruga Avenue, and a speed cushion as approved by the City of Coral Gables and County traffic calming plan at Hardy and Madruga. Intersection improvements and reduction of asphalt to make a safer intersection at Hardy and Mariposa. And then Bike Boulevard pavement markings along Mariposa. Other condition would include the widening of the sidewalk, a creation of a new sidewalk, a wide and or a multi-use path along the south side of Mariposa between Madruga and Mariposa Avenue. Coordination with the county and Public Works, obviously, for the signal retiming of Mariposa Court in US 1, as recommended by the Traffic Impact Study. Construction station would maintain sidewalks open all on US 1 and also on Mariposa Court. Required enhanced landscape requirements to exceed the zoning code. That basically means to plant larger trees than would normally be required by the zoning code. The external illumination or line of the building would be limited to just the ground floor and the rooftop. There wouldn't be any extra uplighting, for example. And vehicle delivery would be limited within the building or along the designated area along Mariposa Court. So the applicant would also supply no parking and no vehicle delivery and drop-off signage or pavement markings on those 2 side streets. And then we would require an annual traffic monitoring for 3 years after the building is up and running to make sure that it's complying with what was expected to produce during the traffic impact study. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill, how many speakers do we have? And on Zoom?
Signed up in the chambers, and we have 3 on Zoom.
Has everybody that's going to be speaking been sworn in? I think there were some people.
There were some people that need to be sworn in.
Can the people who have not been sworn in that are going to be speaking, please stand up? If you've already been sworn in, you can sit down.
Who, I'm sorry?
The people that have already been sworn in don't need to stand up, only
Correct.
the people that have not. Thank you.
A 5-minute break
You like to take a 5-minute break? Of course.
before we get into this work.
All right, let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break, please. Thank you.
It's going to be a long one.
Recording stopped.
Oh, which one? Lots of hot chicken. Saw a bull alligator, 10 foot. He just stood up on the tooth. And I'm in a canoe and I'm saying, oh my.
We're going to go ahead and resume. If everybody can please take
kept
their seats.
sunbathing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They did accept the lime bread.
All right, my understanding is that some more people signed up to speak. There were 8, now there's 11. The 2 last people that stood up, that signed up to speak, can you please stand up to be sworn in? Thank you. 3, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we have 11 speakers that are in chambers, and we have, how many speakers on Zoom? 3. What I'm going to do is, because of the time and so forth, I'm going to ask everybody to please keep everything concise. If somebody has already echoed your sentiments, you can continue on that, or just say as somebody has stated. I'm going to, instead of saying I'm going to limit everybody to 3 minutes, I'd like to give everybody opportunity to speak. But please, if you can make it brief, it would be greatly appreciated. Please call the first person.
Betty Mortensen.
Hello, folks. My name is Betty Mortensen. I live on 1218 Aduana.
If you could speak into the microphone,
I have
please.
lived at 1218 Aduana since 1980s. I've raised my kids there, and I'm also a practicing physician. And I say that for the following reason. We were told in many of these meetings, and I went to almost every one of them, that there was no way that they could eliminate the parking, 750 extra cars. There's a bill, SB 328, which was passed in February of 28 of this year, that says that for this type of project, it eliminates the need for parking within a transit-oriented development, which obviously the metro is. So we don't need those 750 cars. The reason I mention that is the following. I am a practicing physician. I deal in emergencies. I'm an anesthesiologist. People die when those extra couple of minutes that don't mean anything are holding me up. We were told that even though 95% of the people in South Gables did not want the thesis because of the traffic, we would not have traffic problems. I can tell you that is not true. My time to go to work, and if I have an emergency, God forbid it, maybe one of you, any of you, could make a life and death difference. I'm saying this because they have all their fancy papers and all their fancy things. Beautiful project, 750 unnecessary cars. I want to bring that out. The bill is SB 328. The other thing I want to make mention of is the following. We don't need to give away an alley. We all pay taxes. We all work hard for a living. I don't want to give anything away. What are they giving away? Speaking of giving away, as part of this residential mix requirement, it will be, cities will be required to give tax exemptions to the newly built complex and units serving, quote, low-income residents. Let me tell you what the loophole is. The loophole is called the student loophole. Most student rent is paid by either parents' scholarships, financial aid, student loans, or any of those things. None of those are considered income. Therefore, they can rent to as many students as they want and be part of these tax breaks. So we're about to lose money into the coffers of City of Coral Gables. Oh, the most important thing is none of these apartments are required to give rent breaks to the students by law. So the cities all have to give breaks, but we don't. But they don't have to give breaks. They're lining their pockets. They're going back to Georgia and laughing all the way home. In Gainesville, 75% reduction in revenue to the city has caused a major problem to their budget. Just think of what 75% reduction in money coming into the city's coffers are going to mean to the Coral Gables bottom line, our services. The reason we moved and the reason we're in Coral Gables is because we don't like to have, we need good police, fire rescue, emergency services. All those are going to be decreased because our budgets are going to have to be decreased. Right now, we have vacancies in our police department because we are not competitive. We moved to Coral Gables because of police, fire rescue, and all the other services. Who's going to pay for it? They're not. They're going to be getting tax incentives, tax breaks. We're going to be paying for it. Our lives are going to be messed up. And be very clear, I'm not the only physician in that area. If you look at this, all these people are going to be impacted. There's a lot of emergency people. When you're having a heart attack, when you're having an accident, an appendix, one of us may not be able to get there because of their negligible traffic is stopping us. Think about it. Two things you need to think about: 750 unnecessary parking spaces and a drop in budget because of all the tax incentives that they're going to be getting because of this mixed residential project.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jim
Thank you.
Berlin.
And by the way, I was at all those meetings and it was most contentious. People were not happy, specifically with the traffic, which we don't have to have because of SB 328.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen and Sue. I've been in the Gables for over 50
Can you
years.
state your name and address, please, for the record?
737 Tibidabo.
And your name, please?
James Berlin. Jim Berlin.
Thank you, sir.
I live below Sunset. I use the shopping center, which you're talking about, probably once every other week, either CVS or the Baptist Health Facilities or the Bagel Emporium or the UPS store. So I've seen what happens with traffic the time of day. We talked about the thesis and the traffic. So my main concern is the traffic study. They mentioned the word conservative. I don't know what that means. If that means that they did it under conditions when it was on a holiday weekend, or does that mean they did it when it was prime with traffic? But I'm concerned. She mentioned the parking spaces. It's not the parking spaces that bothers me, just the cars in them. And they're going in and out on Mariposa and around on Hardy near my area. Second concern I have is I'd like to know what the representation in this building is. What is their strategic master plan for dorms? I don't know whether they have an endorsement. They built the standard first for housing rentals, and now they're building this. I'd like to know, is there any endorsement from the university to support this building and how they see it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Maria Cruz.
I guess it's still good afternoon. The sun is still out. Maria Cruz, Mrs. Maria Cruz, 1447 Miller Road. Living in the same house since 1976. Seeing a lot of changes around here, from a nice little city that everybody loved to becoming another Brickell. I'm here to let you know that we're not against development. I think development is good. But when people buy property, they know what they can build as of right. They know what fits there. When I bought my house, I knew I couldn't have 3 more floors. If I wanted to build up, I couldn't do it. When I bought my house, I knew the Miller Road rides in front of my house and that I would have traffic there. But I did not expect the amount of traffic we have today. And these people that live there certainly did not expect to have a wall. And pretty soon, I love it when this is this and this is that. Yeah, now pretty soon, we're going to have a wall of buildings from 57th Avenue all the way to US 1. Because Miami is doing the same. So these people that bought their nice houses, thinking that they were going to live in a residential neighborhood, now they have a wall behind them. It's wrong. I took the time, by the way, I'm talking fast because I rushed here to be here. This is the big issue. Traffic, of course. This is the big issue. Developers buy property. They know what is zoned. They know what they can build. Oh no, because we can come here and ask for six changes. Why do we need a zoning code? Why do we need a map? Why do we need anything? Put a sign that says, Coral Gables is for sale. Whatever you want, you can get. Well, I hate to tell you all. You can decide whatever you want today. But the people of this city have spoken. And you have a commission that is not pro-developer anymore. Because the people went out and voted and said no more overdevelopment. And elections have consequences. And much to the unhappiness of some people even sitting here, guess what? It's going to happen again. I'm knocking on doors, and every door that I've talked to people, they've said, we need to put a stop to this. We cannot have the developers come here and buy property and develop whatever they want. And guess what? I would love to have a nicer front lawn. Can I get half of Miller Road? I would love to move the sidewalk a little that way, take a part of Miller Road. I can't, but we can get the alley. What do we pay for the alley? It belongs to us. It doesn't belong to anybody else but the residents of this city. It costs money. That alley, if they were to buy that amount of property, that amount of land, they would have to pay for it. Darn it, if they want it, pay for it. It's not free. We don't get anything for free. When I moved to Coral Gables, I didn't have to worry about the swale. The city came, the city took care of it. Now we have to pay for that. Pretty soon, we're going to have to pay for the use of the roads because other people are getting free stuff. I am very pleased with what the doctor said. You all are giving away our way of life. You all are making the city unlivable. This is wrong. Listen, put your ear to the people. Listen, knock on a few doors. Don't worry about the important people, the establishment that think everything is good and done in the city of Coral Gables. It is not. People are very unhappy. Stop selling our city. That land, the developers bought it, perfect. Build what you have as a right. Nobody told you that you're going to get a comprehensive plan amendment. Nobody told you that you're going to get a change of land use. Nobody told you that you're going to get a change of zoning. Nobody told you you're going to get a zoning code amendment or an alley vacation or a PAD or a conditional use. No, you bought it the way it is. Build what you can build. Respect the neighborhood. Enough is enough. Listen to the people, no more.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if everybody can just hold their applause. We would appreciate it. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Denise Carvalho. And after her will be Roger Cogan.
Hi, my name is Denise Carvalho. I live in Caballero Boulevard, less than 1,000 feet from the
Can you
mark.
state your address for the record, please?
6308 Caballero Boulevard, and I live less than 1,000 feet from the mark. I'd never received an invitation for the meetings up until one day a neighbor of mine came to my house and led a paper saying that they were going to meet the neighbors at the Women's Club. So I went there. It was already like the 10th round of meetings, and I'm around the area that is going to be very much affected. And since then, I started going to the meetings. I went to 2 meetings with the developers. We are not happy with this project at all. As Maria said, they should build what they're allowed to build. Why are we going to give them more? We have our traffic is already super complicated. I'm very upset that they are asking that, and you guys are allowed to give them an alley, extra 2 floors and extra lots of people. Our little South Gables neighborhood comprises approximately 3,000 people, if you don't count the hotel thesis. And this is going to add 1,000 more people to our little neighborhood. So 25% extra people, 700 cars. So then I went to read the traffic study. I couldn't find the full traffic study online on Coral Gables' website. I had to go talk to Miss Melissa Castro, and she made a copy on a pen drive for me, and that's how I was able to read the full traffic study. And the traffic study is ridiculous. I have to tell you that I couldn't believe my eyes when I read it. It treats us as we are stupid people, and we are not stupid people. I read the traffic study full, and I made notes about all the issues that are not right, and I sent to all the commissioners. So you work for the commissioners, you are appointed by the commissioners. We vote for the commissioners and mayor and vice mayor, and they appoint you guys. So you all probably have my notes. You should, at least. But my notes, I say, during construction, the trucks cannot pass through Mariposa Court, and then through the little alley underneath that goes behind. So the trucks are going through Caballero Boulevard. When they go through Caballero Boulevard, they have to go through Mariposa. And this way that they do, they're going to pass through JC Park. It's a children's park of our neighborhood. Lots of trucks during construction passing by. It's not fair to our children. We pay a lot of taxes for that. They say that the level of traffic is already not good during the AM and PM peak hours on Caballero Boulevard. But after doing all this construction with 700 new cars in the neighborhood, the level of service is going to remain good. That's the conclusion. The conclusion is ridiculous. Caltran is here. I can talk to them. I have all my notes here. It's really, really bad. I want, as a neighbor, as a person that lives for 8 years in Coral Gables, I would like you guys to request a new traffic study, a realistic traffic study. They compare apples to oranges in the traffic study. They compare the project in a way that it doesn't make a lot like the students, they don't live with the cars. They never use their cars. They are going to have 700 parking spaces and only 70 bike parking spaces that you guys had now. So like 1,000 students with 70 parking space for their bikes and 700 parking spaces for their cars. So those students, in the traffic study, they are not going to use their cars. And the traffic per se, if they don't do anything, the traffic will rise a lot. So in the comparison, it's better to make the new building, and we are going to have less traffic or the same traffic as if we don't do it. So all the conclusions are wrong. I have all the items here. I read and I commented each of it. All the commissioners have this, the mayor, the vice mayor. I'm ready to talk about that, but my request for you guys is not let this project pass without a real traffic study. We need to know what's going to happen. We need to have ideas of how to mitigate. We don't need 8 floors. We can do 4 floors. The Mediterranean bonus, for us, I don't care if it's going to look Mediterranean or not. I care if my neighborhood is livable. This is much more important for me than like having beautiful Mediterranean ways of, I don't care about that. So I want a new traffic study. I want you guys to be responsible with the people that live around here. We have people that have to urge to their jobs. We have doctors and people that really need to be at their jobs fast. We have people that live and pay a lot of money as taxes here. So we need the city to still be livable. And I believe that this project, one of the entrances is through US 1, the other one is through the little alley that they should all enter and go out through US 1. And they should have less cars, they should have less height and less density. They're still going to make a lot of money. Believe me, I did the math. They're going to earn a lot of money anyway. If they do half of what they're planning, they're still going to be very profitable. So don't worry about being profitable. I want them to be profitable, but they don't need all that. They don't need to ruin our neighborhood for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill?
Mr. Cogan?
Jill, just a question. There are emails that you provided to all the members of the board.
Yes.
You sent it to us by email, and you also left them for us here.
That's
Those are
correct.
being entered into the record?
Yes, they will
Okay.
be entered into the record.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roger Cogan. I live at 1127 Manatee Avenue. And I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. And on one point in particular, everybody's talked about the traffic impact. And I have to say the study that the developers presented to you for traffic patterns is incorrect. My parents bought that property at 1127 Manatee in 1955. I grew up there, went to West Lab, Ponce de Leon Junior High, Riviera Day School, and Carl Gables Senior High. I can tell you how traffic has deteriorated over the last 20 years. Give you an example, in the evening, a lot of families now young families live in our area, and they take their kids to J.C. Park. Nobody walks on Hardy Road. If they're crossing from south of Manada on East Hardy, they cross at the pedestrian crossing, and they take a left, walk to my street, and head up to the park. They will not walk on Hardy Road because of the traffic density and people speeding on it. So I'm just wanting to let you know that this is going to impact all our streets, totally. Also on Mariposa Avenue, in front of the Villa Capri, there is no sidewalks. A lot of young people, young parents, parents of young children, strollers, bicycles, children's bicycles are in the street. There is nowhere for them to go if people are speeding down Mariposa. They are going to get hit. I have been hit. I ride my bike in the afternoon around my neighborhood. I've been hit and run off the road many times, not on Manada or Caballero, but on Riviera, on Alhambra, on Granada, and on Hardy Road. I do not ride to the Chinese Village anymore. I stopped because the traffic circles at Granada and Riviera are too dangerous. People blow right through there. Rush hour traffic in the morning and in the evening. You're going to have accidents, guaranteed. I'm not against development, but the density is too much because there's going to be more development because there's the university in. And you can't, no matter how nice this project is, you can't just keep it as a set aside, the mark only. You have to take the mark, Gables Towers, and the thesis, and whatever goes in at the old university inn. You're going to have, I don't even bother going down Caballero to US 1 to try to make a turn going south on the Dixie Highway. I'll be waiting there all day. On Mariposa Court, the same thing. If you want to go make a south on the Dixie Highway, forget about it. If only place you can go, if you want to make a turn going south on Dixie Highway, is to Mayanada and Augusto. That's it. And even there, you have problems with limited space available for people. In the morning and in the evening, you can't go into that intersection, that five-way intersection. You have to back up on Manata going southward. So I'm just letting you know, it's already been talked about. There's a lot of issues here about traffic. Their study is incorrect. Like I said, I've been living in this property for 64 years. I can tell you what the traffic used to be like and what it is now. Thank you one final thing. At JC Park, because a lot of people are going into their thesis deliveries, Uber Eats, they park in those spots on Hardy Road. So what happens is, also people who go to the thesis and eat at the restaurants park there. They're not supposed to. The city used to give out tickets. They don't do it anymore. So parents who want to take their kids to the park in the eastbound lane of Hardy, blocking traffic. And they park in the no parking zone across the street where there's signs parked on the swell, no parking allowed. That's the only places they have to park. So you're going to increase the density already of a dense, traffic dense area. It's a recipe for disaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Daniel and Laura.
Hello, my name is Daniel Millay. I live at 1205 Mariposa. Our unit actually looks at the corner of Madruga and Mariposa Court, so I know beyond anyone else that something needs to be done about that plaza, but I'm vehemently against this development as it is. Lots of other people have already pointed out the traffic. Yes, traffic's going to be terrible if they do this. There's no way that traffic study is accurate where they add 400 units and it's a nominal increase. There's absolutely no way. And beyond that, the area is not designed for this density. Have you been on Madruga? It's been mentioned, they even admitted it, that it's a narrow street. The traffic study admits the trucks cannot fit down that street and get into their parking. Yet, almost all of the traffic is going to be funneled onto that little bitty street. And the way they've designed it, yes, it's a very beautiful building. It's grand, it's wonderful. I think it's very pretty. It would be great. Somewhere it fits, somewhere that it makes sense. This is a residential neighborhood, not a high-density development area. It's not designed for these type of buildings. There's no infrastructure for it. And like I said, we are the perfect example for growing high-density area in mass transit. I work downtown, my wife works downtown, we take mass transit, our daughter goes to West Lab. We ride our bikes to school and then take the train to work. Yes, they're going to put sidewalks in around the building, only around the building. You still have to cross Madruga with the thousands of cars, delivery trucks, garbage trucks, everything going down that street, because almost the only entrance is on that street. So sure, you can have the sidewalks nice and wide around the building, but anywhere else in the neighborhood, you have to cross that busy street as it is. Like I said, we live on the corner, and so we walk there. As it is now, there are people whipping around that corner blindly speeding. Now imagine all the retail, all the residents, all the students, all the delivery drivers rushing to get home, rushing to their place, unfamiliar with the area, not paying attention to crosswalks, no matter what they say about visibility, line painting, or any of that. It's not designed for the area. Something needs to be done with that plaza. An 8-story, 400 unit plus retail is not what needs to be done. Making special exemptions to add more and more and more onto an area that's not designed for it is not what needs to be done. And again, I want to just reinforce that the traffic study is disingenuous, I feel. There's no way a nominal increase. They don't factor in, they did a field visit from 4 to 6 on a Tuesday or Thursday or something. It doesn't factor in taking our daughter to JC Park, as mentioned after dinner when it cools off, or going on the weekends, any of that. So I'm vehemently against this as it stands. I'm not opposed to development or reconstruction of that area. It just needs to be responsible and factored in the logistics and infrastructure of the area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Laura?
Good evening. I'm Laura Millay. I live at 1205 Mariposa Ave, Unit 433. My husband just spoke, and I think he took most of my talking points. But what I would like to say is that we purchased our home in September 2023, and the letter I received about this meeting is the first time I learned about this development. So all those notices that were sent out, I did not receive any of them. I check my mail every day. And to be honest, I'm horrified. As you can see, we have a 6-year-old. We moved to Coral Gables so she could go to West Lab and live in a safe residential community. We didn't move to Brickell. You know, part of the reasoning around this development is about the mass transit, right? The Metro Rail is there, and the Metro Rail is great. And as my husband said, we do take it. We all know how people are in Coral Gables and Miami-Dade County. This is a car culture. You can put someone's home next to the Metro Rail and they're going to drive their car. There's going to be 700 cars. And that's ridiculous. It's not a nominal increase, as everyone else has said. I agree with what all of my neighbors have said, and I hope will reconsider. Yes, we do need a facelift in that shopping plaza, but let's do it within zoning. The zoning laws were made for a reason. Please don't change them to fill someone's pockets. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Henderson?
Good evening. I'm David Henderson, 1205 Mariposa Avenue. I'm happy to support the redevelopment of the University Shopping Center, but would ask you to look at the aspect of the land area development related to the rear setback along Madruga Avenue. The normal rear setback for the existing or the proposed zoning should be 10 feet, and it's reduced from that in the proposed PAD. And as has been pointed out, Madruga is a very narrow right-of-way, and with the height of the building, the 97 feet, it just becomes overwhelming on the right-of-way and, more importantly, on the building adjacent to it. But it seems like that is something, an aspect of the PAD that will have a significant negative impact on the street and on the surrounding community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Janet Trellin?
Janet Trellins, I live at 1121 Madruga, apartment 303. Not only is the problem the traffic and the cars, but Madruga is only 2 blocks long. Mariposa Court is 2 blocks long. Turin and Caballero are 2 blocks long, and there is no ingress or egress with all these cars. You have, with Mainada and Augusto, you have Ponce Middle School. Kids are coming off the Metro Rail. They're walking. We all know what happened at the UM several weeks ago with this fabulous student who was struck down by cars. And more of this will happen with all the students that are walking. Besides, you have a 2-block radius. This morning, I was by the Citibank. I left Madruga, went up to the stoplight to turn left to go south, and I had 3 stoplights. There was a garbage truck, an Amazon truck, several cars, a plumbing truck. I took a photo of it, time-stamped. I can send it to you all. 3 lights, and that was only the few people that live there now. This is just abominable. And I do want to reiterate what Dr. Mortensen said. The 2 meetings I attended at the Cocoa Plum Women Club were very contentious. They were not happy meetings. People are concerned about the noise that Thesis has provided with the rooftop parties. They're going to have another rooftop pole. They're it's just overdevelopment, and people are really tired of it. I delivered letters to come to this meeting, and I advised people, I'm sorry more did not come, but on Sunday morning and Monday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, as I was walking, dropping them off, reminding them, I ran into 8 or 10 people, and they're frustrated with the city. They're annoyed, they're frustrated, they're not being listened to. And when the traffic study man was speaking at one of the meetings, the smirk and the laughter on the faces of the people, it's unacceptable to be treated this way. We pay taxes, we live in the Gables, the city beautiful, and I don't think this is anything that George Merrick envisioned. The construction that's been from Avenue 22nd Avenue on US 1 out to 37th, it's a parking lot 24/7 now. Whether it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 8 in the morning, it doesn't matter. And it's all the buildings because they're all driving their cars. We are a car-centric city. We're expressways and we're car. Because everyone who's living there is going to have cars. They all want to go to the beach. They all want to go to Wynwood. They all want to go to the design district. Let's be honest about it. And they need cars to do that. Uber works, but they all have cars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janelle Vidal.
I'm Janelle Vidal. I live on 63.
Can you lower the speaker, please? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janelle Vidal. I live on 6312 Caballero. I'm very unprepared because I just found out about this a couple of hours ago. I lived in Brickell for 15 years, and I moved to Coral Gables to get away from that. And I'm here because please protect Coral Gables from too much buildings and the traffic. Brickell became, I love Brickell. I loved it. I thought I would never, that I would die there. And it just became unlivable, too much traffic. Don't do that to the city, please. I moved here to get away from that. And the traffic, I live there on Caballero. I never take Caballero out because there's a line of 10 cars always. I can't imagine if they build that building and all the other buildings that they're planning on building on that area, in that area. That's it. I don't want to repeat what everybody else already said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Henry Pineda.
Hi, my name is Henry Pinera, and I live at 1215 Aduana Avenue, Coral Gables, Florida, 33146. I am here in two capacities. First, I would like to talk to you about my capacity as part of the Transportation Advisory Board. We requested that the builder, that the developer of the MARC, bring traffic engineers in front of us and ask and answer some questions, because I also went to those meetings and they did not provide the traffic engineers that they are providing today. I believe they told us that it would be up to the city of Coral Gables whether they came in front of us and answered some very specific traffic-related questions. As you can tell from everyone over here, everyone is concerned about the impact of traffic to the neighborhood. What I would say, the Transportation Advisory Board actually voted in our last meeting to request a resolution that all large developers be brought in front of the Transportation Advisory Board and be able to answer questions regarding the impact of traffic. Part of the reason why we requested that is because the traffic impact studies that are used, the ones that everybody behind me doesn't believe, are not effective in measuring and were never designed to measure the impact of traffic on a neighborhood. They were designed to measure whether roads can handle the traffic during the peak hours. That's it. It does not measure the impact to the neighborhood. In the example of the Thesis Hotel, it does not measure the Friday night backups as parties and Ubers come and block the Caballero Road. That is not part of the traffic impact studies. I would ask you to ask the developer to go back and bring their traffic engineers to the Transportation Advisory Board and answer the questions that could not be answered. So that is what I have to share with you with respect to my role as part of the Transportation Advisory Board.
So just to be clear for the record, you're here on behalf of the Transportation Advisory Board?
That statement that I just gave was representing the Transportation Advisory Board, and I can confirm that we requested that a resolution be sent to Commission for their review so that they have all future large developments come in front of the Transportation Advisory Board and be able to answer very specific questions that we might have about that development.
Okay, so that your first part was
Yes.
on behalf of the Transportation Advisory Board.
Correct.
Okay, now you're going to do it personal.
Right. Now, as an individual person who lives 3 blocks away from the development, I want to point out a couple things. When I first heard about this project, I heard nearly 400 condos. First question out of everybody, or first question in my head was, well, is it 400 condos with 1 bedroom? 400 condos with 2, 3? I still have not seen a breakdown of the number of rooms associated with this development. And that makes a difference. And I know from a doors measurement perspective, it doesn't make a difference. But why can't we get a clear answer from the developer at this stage in the game on the number of bedrooms associated with this? Now, associated with that point, I will also go on the record as saying that Landmark Properties previously misrepresented their role in the development of the standard project, which is further down close to 57th Avenue. They hid behind a local developer, Shoma, Mosaid, whatever his name is, but they hid behind there. I found the development construction proposals, and I brought it out, and it was clear that the people that were bidding out the construction work was Landmark Properties. The Shoma developer testified in front of the commission that this was his development, yet a few months later, as soon as that resolution passed, everything was transferred. Everything was sold to Landmark Properties. I bring this up because they have not been clear with their intentions in the past. They have misrepresented their positions in the past, and they're not giving clear numbers, or have not given clear numbers as far as I know right now. My information might be out of date, but I have not seen that. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is that this is an illegal upzoning as of right now, in my opinion, because there was no proper notification. In February 2021, there was no proper notification to the surrounding areas, to the surrounding neighborhood, for the original change in zoning from commercial to mixed use. This was done in the dead of COVID, and a number of different locations throughout the city were all packaged together around February of 2021, and no one that I asked this question at the other meeting, no one of my neighbors received notification of that upzoning. Neither did I. So this is just going to be an issue that will get litigated, I have no doubt, because we did not receive proper zoning notice of changes in February of 2021. Did anyone here
If you can,
receive
please,
notification?
sir, if you can just direct everything to
Okay.
the board. Thank you.
Okay, the last major point that I would make to you is the Thesis Hotel, the UM building that is next to the Thesis Hotel, they all have some level of restrictions about egress onto Madruga. I want to make sure that this development, if it passes, is held to similar standards as that. That is one of the questions that I wanted to ask and delve into more as part of my role with the Transportation Advisory Board. I hope that you guys will hold them to the same standard that these other developments have been held to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The following speakers are on Zoom.
Go ahead, please.
Okay.
How many do we have?
3. Kyle Pineda.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you raise your right hand to be sworn in, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kyle Pineda. I live at 1150 Madruga Avenue, Unit B101.
Continue, please.
So I don't want to echo what everybody else has said about the traffic and the overdevelopment. I think that's been stated enough. My concern living in the Royal Caribbean Club, which is right across the street, diagonal from where the development would be, is there is no buffer. There's absolutely zero buffer between the building and where we live. So there's a couple issues here. For one, they talk about being a dog-friendly sort of development and all that, but people are going to take their dogs and they're going to go over to our building. They're going to use what we have in our building, and, you know, it's going to be wasteful. It's going to be disgusting. And we don't want to have to deal with that kind of thing. We already have our own units with our own animals, and it doesn't seem fair that now all of a sudden we're going to have however many new units potentially coming into our neighborhood to do that and increase waste. The other issue with that is that there is precedent in Coral Gables for there to be a buffer zone. And there is just no buffer zone. I mean, even a small little dog park between Mariposa and where this building would be would greatly help in this situation. I have concerns about the music off the rooftop. I know that it's going to face US 1, but that's just going to mean they're going to crank it louder. You know, and we're right here where we are in the building next to us, off Madruga Avenue. We're going to hear that stuff. And there's just zero buffer. It doesn't seem like I'm totally for the redevelopment of that retail plaza. It is long overdue. But like as others have stated, it should be sensible. It should be smart. I don't think it necessarily has to be as dense as the developers have proposed. And if we are going to make it dense, we need to keep in mind the surrounding areas and create buffer zones. The building does not need to come off to the street. I've been to the Thesis building. These canyons are usually empty. There's nobody walking through there. I go there on my walk in the afternoons. The guests don't hang out there. It's just an empty space. That could be rethought of in another way, in a smarter way. The other issue I have is with the delivery trucks. I live right next to where those delivery trucks are going to be, and it's going to be nonstop all day. We already talked about the dangers of people getting hit potentially by traffic. And with the current infrastructure as is, there's no way Mariposa Court can handle this. And we're just going to be stuck in that all day. And so I asked the Planning and Zoning Board to please take some of this into account, that we understand redevelopment should occur, but it must be sensible, it must be smart. We have to create buffer zones between the residential communities that surround this building and this project. And we hope you take that into consideration. Thank you for letting me have the time to speak.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes. Gabriela Bolano.
Is Ms. Bolano there?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Thank you. Would you like to be sworn in? And if so, we would have to have your camera on.
Sure.
Thank you. If you please raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Gabriela Bellato, 1150 Madruga Avenue, apartment A303. Good evening, members. I would like to express my support for the proposed project, the Mark, in our community. As a resident and homeowner in the area, I believe that this project will bring numerous benefits to our neighborhood and will enhance the quality of life for all residents. First off, it addresses the need for housing and green space, as well as commercial and retail space, which are essential for sustainable growth and prosperity of our community. Furthermore, the project demonstrates a commitment to responsible and thoughtful development practices. From my reviews of the plans and discussions with the developers, I am impressed by their efforts to incorporate traffic calming measures, increased mobility, and internalizing the unsightly waste facilities which are currently there in that alley. Additionally, adding sidewalks and landscaping will contribute positively to the surrounding area. The proposed development also has potential to stimulate economic growth and create job opportunities within our community. By attracting new businesses and residents, it will generate revenue for local businesses, increase property values, and ultimately strengthen our local economy. As a resident of Coral Gables, I believe it is crucial to embrace progress while preserving the unique character and charm that makes our neighborhood special. The proposed development strikes this balance by offering modern amenities and opportunities for growth while respecting the existing fabric of the community. So I ask the zoning board to please approve the proposed items. This will be a positive step forward for our community. Thank you for considering my input.
Thank you.
Valerie Howell.
Yes.
Could you please raise your right hand?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. If you state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Valerie Howell. I live at 1150 Madruga Avenue, B201, Royal Caribbean Club. And I won't speak very long, but I just wanted to say that I agree with most of the previous speakers. I'm in opposition to this project. I wanted to bring up a couple of points. Kyle just mentioned one of them, and that is my concern about the side of the building that is on Mariposa Court. There is no buffer zone there. And I am also very worried about those constant deliveries that are going to be going on day and night, because the delivery zone is right outside my window. And most of the people on this side of our building are going to be experiencing that problem. I would like to see a bigger buffer on that side of the building, multiple layers of landscaping, further setback, so that we have some kind of protection from the noise, and move the delivery area someplace else. I'd also like to bring up a point that hasn't been brought up. For people that are living on this side of the Mariposa, the side of the street, right now, we have a view of the sun in the afternoon. We have a view of sunset in the afternoon. That's all going to be going away with this project. We're not going to have that natural light in our apartments anymore. It's, to some that might seem a minor point, but it's a real quality of life issue for me and for other people that enjoy natural lighting in their apartments. So I don't agree with the height of the building, especially the 8th floor. We don't need buildings that high in this area. I also wanted to mention Royal Caribbean Club was mentioned previously in the presentation as having been met with the residents, but I checked with our manager and he confirmed that only the board was met with on a Zoom meeting and no further meetings have been made and the residents were not included in that meeting. So most of the residents in this development are probably unaware of what's going to be happening across the street. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I thank you for your consideration for allowing me to speak. And I would really ask you not to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more speakers.
What about in the phone platform?
A message was sent out to everyone in Zoom, and no one has indicated they wish to speak.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to go ahead and close the floor to the public and open it up for board comment.
You need to give the applicant time for rebuttal first.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Thank you.
I'm going to address some of the comments, not necessarily in the order, because I jotted down notes as some of the comments were made. So I'll start with the bedroom count. The bedroom count was part of our original application. Our original application was filed a couple of months ago. Has been available. I know that I personally have downloaded and handed it to people who have asked me for it, but it has been available. I don't know how easy because, you know, the city has a new uploaded system, but the number of bedrooms is 114 one-bedrooms, 121 two-bedrooms, and 158 three-bedrooms for a total of, well, that, and then we have the live-work for a total of 393. I also...
That can't be right.
Bedroom 158, 121, 114.
Wait, if we can, just one person speak at a time, please. Jennifer?
Well, I think what we have to do is somebody wishes to speak, they need to come to the microphone so that the court reporter can take down their
158.
testimony.
Okay, I'm correct. She just came up here, and that is the correct number. It's 114 one-bedrooms, 121 two-bedrooms, and 158 three-bedrooms.
It was actually slide 10 in my presentation.
Okay.
Okay, so do we multiply 121 by 2, 158 by 3 to get the bedroom count? You're talking about units, not bedrooms.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because that's how the zoning code is based on units.
Okay.
And that's
It
how the
looks like-
zoning code determines parking. So what I'm saying is the zoning code and the parking requirements are based on units. And for a one unit, it has a certain number of parking. For a two-bedroom unit, it has a different number of parking. For a three-bedroom unit.
All right, Laura, but I think Chip came up with the number. So there
Yeah.
are 830 bedrooms. 830
I won't
bedrooms.
dispute your math, but I can tell you I can't do that math in my
His
head.
math.
I could be off a thousand.
Continue.
So Mr. Pinera, if Mr. Pinera is here, that was his question.
Right.
There are 830 bedrooms.
Let's let the rebuttal and then we'll go through.
All right. With respect to the issue with dog stations, there are 8 dog stations, both poop stations and water bowl stations throughout the project itself. We did that, not just one station, not just 2, but we made sure there were sufficient stations to specifically address that we did not want anyone that lives within the project to go outside of the project to walk their dog. With respect to outreach, we did a lot of outreach. We reached out to the Gables Neighborhood Association starting in June. I met with I don't know if she's the de facto president, Debbie Register, but we also met with Lisa de Tournay. I met with Lisa de Tournay's son. We've had numerous, we gave you the list of large meetings that we had. We met with the Villa Capri, both with the board and with residents. And we met with the Royal Caribbean. Yes, it was the board of directors. There were some residents. We extended the invitation to the condominium association and let them make the arrangements as to who they invited, but we also made ourselves available to meet with anybody that wanted to, and we shared all our information, Board of Architects meetings, Board of Architects plans, traffic engineering studies, etc. I'm going to allow the city's traffic consultant to address the traffic issues. I'm not a traffic engineer. I'm not going to pretend to be one today. What I will say is that based on the traffic study, I want you to know that we requested that the study have an additional intersection, that it include pedestrian counts, that it include accident counts. So everything we heard from the neighbors and from members of the traffic advisory board, we took that in and we asked the city, and the city asked the consultant to include that in their report. So I want you to understand that the project was designed to try to mitigate traffic by internalizing all of the services. Garbage pickup, deliveries, furniture, big stuff is all interior. Restaurant deliveries, etc., it's all interior. Because we live in today's world and we know, my office is on the corner of Ponce and Aragon. People stop in the middle of Aragon, they stop in the middle of Ponce, whether it's Uber Eats, whether it's Uber, whether it's Amazon, whether it's just someone picking somebody up. They don't pull over, they just do it in the middle of the traffic lane. We have been working with the parking director to create a delivery zone adjacent to the building where there will be spots that will be monitored by the city, so a truck can, an Amazon, UPS, etc., truck can park, run in, drop off the project, but we're trying to keep them off the roadway, off a travel lane. Yes, we are asking for a lot of applications. There are 6. But some of them just has to do with the way our zoning code is set up. For those of you that know, I've been doing this for several decades now. I won't go into the exact number. But the building we all love, the Alan Morris Alhambra, 121 Alhambra, that is on the cover of everything that you see. It's as iconic almost now as the Biltmore. It needed a change in land use, a change in zoning, a vacation of right-of-way, etc., to make that building happen. The same for the Hyatt Hotel. It required 16 variances. Our zoning code is such, and currently right now, while one of the neighbors said build as of right, because of the size of this site being over 1 acre, it requires a site plan review. So we were going to be here with a site plan review regardless, because the new change in the zoning code eliminated as of right building. We asked for the extra 2 stories, not to get more units, not to get more FAR. Our FAR is at 3.15, not the 3.50. And we did that to provide a nicer, more aesthetically pleasing building. We have the same density because the density is the same, whether you are MX1, MX2, or MX3. The only difference is in the height, where you put the density, whether you spread it out or whether you go more vertical with it. With respect to the alley, it is a remnant. That area was originally platted back in the 1920s by George Merrick. Later on, just before the shopping center was built in the 40s, the alley was vacated because the alley bifurcated, like all the blocks did. It had an alley bifurcating parallel to US 1. That block was replatted. It was replatted again, and then the road was affected when the Villa Capri condominium was built with what is called the Koga subdivision. And that happened in the early 70s. So the 6 applications are to get as beautiful a project as we are presenting. The alley, while it was a public alley, has in essence been abandoned since the shopping center was built in, I think it was 1951 or 52. The alley has not been open. It has not been used for service. The city has not used the alley. It has been used by the shopping center for both parking and access. With respect to the PAD is because we have two buildings connected by a bridge and because we were addressing step backs. But as most of you know who have been up here for several years, the PAD requires greater open space. It requires more streetscape. It requires more amenities, more to the neighborhood. If you didn't ask for a PAD, you could eliminate some of the amenities that are being provided. And then I just want to reiterate that the zoning code states specifically that high-density projects should be located, and it mentions other streets that are not important here, but it specifically spells out US 1, South Dixie Highway. Since the beginning, we've decided that mid-rise was going to be the appropriate thing here. It would create a buffer. We didn't try to go to MX3 and play a game and say we're going to come down. We came in with what we thought was going to be an incredible project for the neighborhood. We have worked incredibly hard. In fact, the new requirement that you meet with neighbors before a board of architects, we did that without anyone suggesting it to us, without anyone requiring it of us. So we really have tried to do outreach. And I know it's difficult, but, and I'm sure when you have questions for the traffic engineer, a commercial retail project here would create a lot more traffic if you were to have, you know, a high volume retail establishment. And the neighbor that spoke, it is correct. Back in, I think it was January of 2021, the zoning code was, quote, reorganized. And in that reorganization, if you will recall, a lot of properties on US 1 were zoned commercial, and they got changed to now MX1, MX2, or MX3. At that time, if you followed the zoning code, they should have made US 1 MX3. So I just want to reiterate that I think our request is an incredible, reasonable one that works with the current zoning code, the comp plan, and with the infill requirements and statements that are in the comprehensive plan with respect to mobility. And once again, I would respectfully request that you approve our project. And then our team is available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. With that, I will now close the floor for public comment. Felix, would you like to start, please?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
So, I look at the project, I look at the location, I listen to the neighbors, and it's a systemic problem in Coral Gables. Coral Gables is dying by 1,000 cuts. Every single project that comes before this city seems to be asking for not just rezoning to be within the ceiling, which is the comprehensive land use plan, but we've pushed the ceiling over and over again using the small-scale comprehensive plan changes. When you add all these small scales, this comprehensive land use plan is unrecognizable. Sometimes I think I understand I do this for a living, but at the same time, I have to look at, see what is reasonable development. And there's a difference between making a profit and making an excessive profit. Doing something that is compatible. And I remember a commissioner that sat on this dais that asked me to define compatible. You know, it's like way back when the Supreme Court Justice, if he could understand what was obscene He says, well, when I see it, I could recognize it. And I think this is obscene. Why? Because it's not that you're just asking for 2 additional floors. You're taking a massive building and saying that you've altered the massing because now you have 2 buildings. I just did a quick sketch here. And the reason that you have the 2 buildings is this way you could line residential almost like in a square donut on either side. And you're using this paseo to be able to have light, which is required for those apartments. So you're not asking for more height. I think it's remarkable because when you look at the US 1, as many of us, since at least I was a kid, we call it useless 1. The traffic is just absolutely unbearable at every time of the day. And at the same time, it's called a smart corridor. Now, if that's not an oxymoron, I don't understand what is. When you put in the amount of units, of 700 units, and when you look at that aerial photograph that staff showed, all those single-family homes behind it, it is just wrong. 700 spaces, almost 400 units, almost 30,000 square feet of retail. Who's going to drive there to use that retail? The other thing is that when you look at the comprehensive land use plan, this MX1 and then MX2 and MX3, the thesis was an abomination, and it's proved to be one. It is out of place. It has altered the single-family residential quality of life. See, when you look at traffic, you consider the LOS, the level of service. But nowhere does it say anywhere in the factors that master plans have to be evaluated with every 7 years, nowhere does it say quality of life. Not one word. But tonight we heard residents here talk about the quality of life. This board, in my opinion, is the difference between us providing a quality of life or reassuring that there will be a quality of life through compatible development. In my opinion, this is very incompatible. The building goes back many, many years. I can't recall when it was built, but it wasn't the building. bought it, and they moved over there. And if memory serves me right, it came off the tax rolls because is not for profit. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that's the way it is. So they use it for their offices, and it's a big building. But it was built during another time where spot zoning was very prevalent everywhere, in every urban area, including Coral Gables. And there are examples of spot zoning that are today legal nonconforming uses. I look at this and the zoning code says that we should have all this intensity on US 1. But look at what the comprehensive land use plan says. It's MX2. Now, I can't stand here or sit here and say that I want to take away property rights from the developer. We'll be sued, probably successfully. The city of Coral Gables has been sued many times before, and they've lost a few. And one of the things about it is that the MX2 has 2 less floors. When it comes to bonuses, those additional floors, when you look at the comprehensive land use plan, you're looking at things that have to do with consistency. So when I look at the bonuses, and let there be no doubt, bonuses are discretionary. If tomorrow the city said, you know what, I've had enough with Mediterranean architecture and Mediterranean bonuses and all these bonuses, we won't be successfully sued because bonuses are discretionary. So it's not a Bert Harris Act issue. It's definitely a discretionary thing. Now, the compatibility to the south is not there. But the bonuses increase intensity and increase height. So not only are you adding 2 more floors, but you're adding the 2 floors of the med bonuses on top of that. I think that that's just an affront to the neighbors. The streets that were brought up by the neighbors, starting with the doctor, she was absolutely correct. Those are very, very small right-of-ways. It is impossible to negotiate out of there. And in fact, if you just look up the street down in Pinecrest, the police officers couldn't get out of their own city hall at certain times of the day on Useless One. And you're coming in from US 1 instead of going to the end of the street where the traffic light is to be able then to slow people down and at least give them a chance of not getting rear-ended on US 1. 700 parking spaces, 400 units. The height and the intensity are incredible. 1,000 cuts. This is just another cut. The city of Coral Gables is unrecognizable now. I cannot support this application in any way, shape, or form. But I'll tell you another thing. The pad that is being requested is that for many years we've had a board of adjustment to adjust certain portions of the zoning code. But one of the things that you have to prove when you go to the Board of Adjustment is that you have to prove hardship. If you have a single-family home and your setback is 10 feet and you want 8 feet, good luck on that one. But now, through the magic use of a pad, now you could avoid all variances. That's a mistake because it increases, again, the intensity issue. So there are many reasons that I find this particular project too big, too intense, and too overwhelming to the neighbors and the neighborhood. And I'll end with a joke. And it has to do with traffic engineers. Let me just get to the punchline. The joke is, or the answer to the joke is, what do you want it to be? Realistically, the people that live around this neighborhood, they can't get out of their neighborhood. And when you add another 700 cars there, it is just going to be ridiculous. I don't want to even get into the Live Local Act because it seemed to be skirted by some of the speakers. And in all fairness to the applicant, I don't want to do that. But I do know that with the Live Local Act, there are a lot of benefits to developers. But there are also a lot of negative ramifications to the rest of the residents that have to pay the taxes that they won't have to pay. So there are a lot of moving parts here. And Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the opportunity to or make my statements clear.
Thank you, Felix. Chip?
You always make me follow this guy.
It's a tough act to follow.
Jeez. Better be on my A game. I want to get technical a little bit with the traffic. Is this on? I want to get technical with the traffic. So I want to ask you a couple questions now, and you can look up the answers later. And okay, I want to know what your counts are before the thesis was built and after the thesis was built on these specific stacking areas. Crossing US 1 on on Caballero, on Turin, and on Augusto Maynada. How many cars are backed up on the stop sign there between 8 and 10 a.m.? Before thesis and after thesis. So that number I'm looking for. That's number one. Okay. Go ahead. Do you have that number?
No, I don't have that number because obviously thesis was already was already built by the moment that we collect the data.
So the city had parking
The
studies
city
before?
gave me a traffic study, yes, they
So
did.
you have access to that, no?
We can get that information.
But you don't have it now?
We don't have it right now.
Okay. Does the city have that? Does the city have that information? Okay. Maybe you can get with the city and check that in the meantime. I also would like to know what the traffic counts were on before thesis and after thesis on Mariposa, Hardy, Maynada, and it's really an alley, but
Could I ask you, before you continue, just if you can state your name and record?
I'm sorry.
Your name and address for the record. Sure.
Juan Calderon, Cultural Engineering Group, 790 Northwest 107 Avenue, Suite 200.
Thank you.
Melissa Desires, Transportation Division Manager for the City of Coral Gables. Thank you.
And Madruga. So those 4 streets, I want to know the counts before thesis and after thesis. Because we've all I've heard from 30 speakers tonight is this traffic study is not real. So those are the benchmarks. Because I know I sometimes wait at that stop sign to cross US 1 on Maynada.
I understand.
For 15 minutes just to cross, and I'm just wondering what another 800 cars might do to that.
Let me tell you the approach to the traffic study. So
No, I don't need the approach.
Well, I can tell you that the data that we have is the data of after thesis being built. We got it. Thesis was already built by the moment that we were able to collect data. We collected very recent that data.
Okay. So how many more cars is it going to add between now and the time it's built?
The new development, 8.
8 cars?
8 cars
So you're telling me after this is built,
to
cross US 1 on Maynada, going north, it's only going to add 8 cars, what, a minute?
An hour.
8 cars.
8 cars. That's what we're adding to Madruga is the one song?
No. Maynada, Augusto. There's a little Ponce de Leon Middle School.
Oh, that's north of, yes.
So if you're crossing over US 1 from Maynada, crossing US 1 in the morning, how many more cars per, you say hour, that's one every...
Maynada, you mean Maynada, correct. Maynada, the one that is...
Crossing Maynada over US 1.
Maynada was no part of the scope.
But why? That's on your map that you showed us, that's one of your main exit points on the map that Laura showed us. Okay, how about Turin? You know where Turin is? Turin is the street between the city bank and the property. Going out of Turin, which I'm assuming the folks from Mariposa and Madruga go north on Turin and either turn left on US 1, how many more cars per hour is this going to add?
Mariposa
I'm sorry, Mariposa Court. I'm sorry, Mariposa Court. Okay, I'm sorry, Mariposa Court. I got the wrong one there.
You got me confused.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know, it's very confusing.
Could maybe if we could we put the map up?
That would be good.
Yeah, let's do that.
And that way we can all take a look at it at the same time.
I mean, I honestly haven't seen the traffic study.
Okay.
All I've heard is people complain about the traffic
Understand.
study. So I just want to find out some of the reasons they're complaining. And while you're doing that, can you tell me what a speed cushion is?
Speed cushion is a kind of hump condition that they have.
It's a flat top speed traffic calming device.
It's like a big speed bump.
It's
Like
a speed bump.
table kind of deal.
It's a
Kind of
speed
table.
table with a division in the middle
Okay.
for emergency
We
vehicles.
we can only have one person. She can't take stereo.
Okay.
We can only have one person at a time, please.
There was a comment made by Eric that said most intersections will be okay maintaining conditions. I don't know what that means. Most. So what are the intersections that aren't going to be okay?
So the 2 intersections that are not going to be okay, the 2 intersections that are not going to be okay, that they need to be revisited or that they need to be addressed in a certain way, is obviously Mariposa, where is the traffic signal with US 1. That is the one at the north side. If you want to put it in that one, there is a traffic signal next to the bridge.
If I may, somebody's speaker is on their phone. Can they turn it off, please?
So Mariposa and US 1?
Yes,
Where does Mariposa hit US 1?
where at the bridge, where you have the crossing of the bridge. Mariposa
Mariposa
Court.
Court, okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So that one is a signal
Right.
that one we're asking to be retimed as part of the application. Okay? And obviously the other one is Caballero. Caballero, which is in the south side.
right.
That is where the wide median opening is a wide median opening where people are, where you are saying that you are having difficulties to cross, I guess.
No, I'm talking about Maynard, you're talking about Caballero, but I don't think they can put signalized lighting there, can they? Because you have one on South
Because you have
Alhambra.
one very close to it,
Right,
correct.
Right, okay. So I guess this goes to city staff. It said that they're going to benchmark for 3 years. Okay, and what happens if the first year the benchmark doesn't hit? What happens?
I believe, I didn't grab my iPad, but I believe it says in the condition that they have to make improvements to the area to be able to,
Why don't they do them now?
because according to their traffic study, they don't need them. You can only rely on
What improvements would?
experts.
Okay, so tell me what kind of. This is important because if you can do improvements to correct this problem in the future, let's talk about getting them done now so we don't have the problem. That seems pretty logical to me.
So obviously, the first thing is to see what happened after the retiming in Mariposa Court. That will be the first thing to see in the future, once the development happens.
15 seconds, 30 seconds?
That can be done as part of the application. But there is an issue when you do retiming, is that remember that the corridor needs to flow. So there is an issue that you have to monitor that retiming.
So let's say the timing doesn't work, then what do?
Then obviously there is an issue that needs to be addressed. If the retiming doesn't work on that specific intersection, in the county needs to come and see coordination between the three signals altogether, because the signals are coordinated. They are supposed to flow. You need to have a green.
Okay.
A green.
I'm not convinced. I'm
okay,
sorry.
that's fine.
Okay. And then what's the other area where we have to look at if you're monitoring? So we know, I really don't think that adding 15 seconds to those cars actually on US 1, because they're stacked up anyway on US 1, they're going to sit there for 15 seconds and the light's going to go back to red again. So I don't know I think you agree with me. That US 1 is a 5 or whatever it is, probably more than that, and you're just not going to, by adding more timing to a street onto US 1, it's going to make a whole lot of difference. But maybe it will. But let's say that doesn't work. Is there another solution, or is that the only solution?
Well, the other solutions that are obviously this intersection, the right of way is very constrained. You cannot widen this right of way of what it is. So we are limited within the right of way that we have.
Okay. Were you able to get those numbers on? Okay, let's hear what they are.
So where were you looking for?
I was looking for.
Chip, if I may, 1 second. It's going to be 9 o'clock soon.
Yeah, it's probably going to be 10 before we get out of here.
Right, but we need to extend time before 9 o'clock.
Make a motion to extend it to 10 o'clock.
To 10 o'clock? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second? Everybody in favor say aye.
No.
Aye.
We have a no. Julio?
I didn't say no.
I said no. We have one no.
Say yes.
We have a yes.
Yes, I'm good with it.
We have yes. I'm a no also. So it passes to extend.
What's the vote?
To extend to 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but what's the vote count?
Two no's
Two
and
no's.
1, 2, 3, 4 yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask why no to extend it?
Because we're going to hit 10 o'clock and we're going to still be here. That's why.
Well, then we'll defer to next week, till next month if you want.
No. What I'm saying, for me, I would have rather extend it to 9:30, for example, see how it goes, and then if we need to extend it another half
Would
hour.
that be more acceptable?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
That would to me.
And I'm going as fast as I can. I just want
No, it's not you, Chip.
So
Yes,
it's not
would you like to?
May I amend my
Yes, please.
motion? Can you
I'll
that?
second the
9:30?
amendment.
So the amendment is to 9:30?
9:30.
Amended.
And
Yes.
a second? Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Proceed,
Okay.
please.
So right now, he's reviewing what we have here is the existing counts before
I can't hear you that well,
Oh,
Sunshine.
Sorry. Okay. So he's reviewing right now, basically what we have right here is the Paseo traffic impact study and the existing counts prior to it being built. He's comparing the numbers with what he has so that you can see what the
Okay.
difference is between the two.
Okay, let's do it.
So obviously, when there is development and there is growth in traffic, so before the thesis, there was about 80 vehicles entering Caballero, which is the main intersection. Before
Which intersection, I'm sorry?
Caballero
Caballero and where?
It's at the
and
corner of
US
the
1
Thesis.
and US 1.
Okay, go ahead. What's up?
Which intersection you want to know?
I want to know Maynada, and I want to know Maynada and US 1.
They don't have my net.
Okay, that's an important one, because that's one of the key exit points that you showed on
Jennifer,
your map.
could we put that map that was up there?
Maynada is way up north.
Maynada is not way up north.
Maynada is,
It's 250 feet from the property.
yeah. We don't have data in Maynada. We have, no, there is no data in Maynada. We have data on, the data
Okay,
was
let's make it easy.
okay?
What is the increase in traffic count on Hardy Road? Just tell me that. How many more cars are going to be going on Hardy Road per hour? That's pretty easy.
So that's Hardy becomes Caballero, okay? Let's clarify, okay?
Now, what I'm talking about specifically is people aren't going to be getting out onto US 1, but I live there, so I know this. I go it every morning.
Okay.
People do not try to get out onto US 1 at Caballero. You just can't. It's impossible, okay?
Okay.
So they come down and they either cut through Mariposa and go over to Maynada and head north, or they come down Hardy, go down to Granada and up, or Maynada. So I just want to know what the increased traffic is on Hardy. How many more? I just want to see the validity of this traffic study.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the numbers of what, for you to understand. In Hardy, the traffic was
Jennifer.
about 58 vehicles before the thesis was
Okay.
built, okay? Now, in Hardy, what is going to be after is going, this is peak hour, just to clarify. This is peak hour.
This is what?
Peak hour.
Yeah, peak hours.
Okay. So in Hardy, what is going to be after thesis was implemented, without the project, is 70.
Okay, so you're telling me
Thesis brought to Hardy.
Okay, listen, I'm not trying to pick this apart, but you're telling me, say that of the 750 cars, okay, just say of the 750 cars or parking spaces in the building.
So let me.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Before thesis was implemented, there was 68.
Okay.
After thesis was implemented, there was 72 cars.
Okay.
Okay? After the new development is going to be implemented, there is going to be 80 cars.
Okay.
Per hour.
No, wait a minute. So, okay. So let's do the math.
So it's
Okay,
20.
but how many, there's
in Hardy.
830 bedrooms, okay?
Peak hour. The same.
There's 830 bedrooms, as we talked about. Let's say that a third of those have cars. And let's say a half of those go down Hardy. That's 100 right there. So I don't see how you can, now I know.
Everybody will choose Hardy.
Okay, now I understand the neighbor's concern. Because I know.
Not everybody will choose Hardy.
Nobody what?
Because not everybody will choose Hardy because they do have main entrance
If I
to
could
US
keep
1.
everybody please silent
I get it,
in the
I get
room.
it, I get it.
Okay.
Sir, if I could just ask everybody please, because we hear everything up here.
What is the increase on Madruga? Because that's what I'm concerned about, because that street's 30 feet wide. And that was a big issue when the city allowed Thesis to use that street, and everybody complained about it, saying that it's an alley, which it is. and now it's being used not only for the thesis, but it's being used for your property. So what was the count before and after
Okay, so let's start with
Madruga?
Madruga.
And that's the last one I'll ask you, I promise.
Before, you have 22 vehicles before thesis.
Okay, that's fair
Okay.
enough. That's probably about right.
After thesis, without this development, you have.
And these are actual counts.
I got
This
it.
is not the analysis.
On
This is
Saturday.
the
On Saturdays.
peak hours. It's not on Saturdays.
No, go ahead, I'm just kidding.
It's never taken, it's never taken on a Saturday.
You can throw your glasses at me.
Trying to lighten it up.
It's too late. Too late.
30.
Okay, so thesis increased it by only 8, even though that's the main entrance to their parking garage on the Madruga. Okay.
This is just actual counts.
I understand. And how many are you going to have now?
We are going to increase, this project is going to increase it to 33.
Say that again?
33.
So your 830 bedroom apartment, whose main ingress and egress in the back
Again,
of that building is going to
the
increase.
traffic, this site has a main entrance through US 1. At the same time, obviously, a lot of traffic is going to select to go through Madruga in direction Mariposa Court.
I got it.
And I just, if I may, Hermes Diaz, I'm the Public Works Director. I just want to clarify.
Could you put your name in the record?
Sure,
please?
Hermes Diaz, I'm the Public Works Director. This is not traffic counts for a whole day. This is just peak hour.
I understand.
Okay, just making sure that's
And
clear.
peak hours are what, 8 to 10?
Peak hour, 1 hour.
8 to 9.
8 to 9 or 7 to, yeah.
1 hour.
Yes.
In 1 hour.
Yes.
This project, either from 5 to 6, people coming home, or 8 to 9, people going out, is going to generate 3 more cars in 1 hour, is what you're saying. Okay. Okay. Okay.
In that specific.
Now, I guess the city, do you believe that? No, I know, but I just want to ask him, does that seem logical? I live there.
I just want to make sure this is actual data collected. We're not talking now about the actual study. That's what the actual physical data that was collected reflects.
No, he projected. You can't,
Right,
that's not actual data. I'm talking about
I
a
see.
projection.
Okay, so.
Actual data I can't argue with, but
Right.
projections I can argue with.
So-
Listen, that's fine. If you say 3 and that's what you stand by, I can honestly see why the neighbors don't believe it. I'm sorry, but I mean,
It's
I
okay.
don't know that many of us can believe it, but that's fine.
It's okay. Altogether, the development in the peak hour
I understand.
is going to generate 120 cars. That's what the trip generation says.
Okay. And they're all going different directions. Some are going
And they
out
go,
US 1.
some of them will choose this, some of others will choose other. They do have different routes.
But coming home at night, they won't take the same route they're leaving in the morning.
They tend to take the same way to go. If they go north, they will come south. The majority of the traffic will tend to go north to downtown.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but I would rather turn left on US 1 with a light than try to turn on US 1 without a light. So I would not
Correct,
come
and
from
that is
Caballero,
happening
I
in
would come
Caballero.
down.
That is happening in Caballero.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay. Thank you. I didn't mean to be so
no problem.
demonstrative, but I just, okay, so the other couple of quick questions. Has this property been sold or is this under contract based on this approval? Thank you. You don't know the answer to that, I'm sure. Is this, I mean, does Landmark own this or is this optioned out until this gets approved?
We're currently the contract purchasers.
What does that mean?
Contract purchaser means it's under contract and there hasn't been a closing yet.
I understand that, but is it based on them getting approval on this?
It's based on getting certain approvals,
Okay,
yes.
so it's not, they don't own it yet, this is all, okay, that's fine, I was just curious to know. And has there been discussion with UM?
What type of discussion with UM?
Any discussion with UM?
Yes, we let the UM know that this project was coming because one of the conditions was to put a sidewalk behind their current building. So we did not want to agree to a condition to put landscaping and sidewalk behind their building.
Okay, so the only
Okay, so-
discussion's been about landscape and site
Correct,
plan,
correct.
nothing
This
about...
is not a UM-sanctioned
'cause
project.
that's
The
what-
UM is not endorsing the project. This is not part of UM housing.
Okay,
This is
that-
strictly separate and apart, has nothing to do with University of Miami.
One of the speakers insinuated, I'm trying to squelch that rumor, that the UM doesn't own any of this, isn't made any deals with students on this or anything like that, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Sewer connection. Are you hooking up to city sewer?
I know we've been working with the city's Public Works Department, so I think Mr. Diaz can answer that
Yeah, that'd be
question
great.
better for you than I can.
Yes.
Let me tell you one of my questions asked, because some residents who are concerned and wanting to hook up to sewer feels that some of the sewer capacity is going to be sucked up by this project, and they're not going to be able to hook up to the sewer. So that's the point of my question.
So the way the project works, the way the process works, they are required to send us where the flows are, and if there's no capacity in the system, then they will be required to have improvements to the sewer system.
Okay, I understand that, but my question specifically is,
Right.
what is the capacity now? How much capacity are they going to take up, and how much capacity will we have left over after they
We
hook
don't
up?
have the answer to that question at the moment.
I mean, I think that's kind of important.
I'm sorry?
That's kind of important.
Well, they will be required to provide that capacity if that capacity does not exist.
Okay, so we don't know, basically, we don't know what their sewer requirement is and what we have to give to them and what improvements might
No,
be.
at the moment, we do not. That will be subject to an agreement further down the line. It's a standard procedure with any job in the city.
If I can piggyback, Chip, on that question, what happens if, once they do the sewer, they meet the capacity, but yet they're able to do it? What happens with other residential owners that want to
So the way we do, we treat any developer. If the system has capacity, they're welcome to use the capacity the system has. I mean, that is standard, doesn't matter who does it. If the system does not have capacity, we actually do two different types of analysis. We looked at which are the segments that will be out of capacity as a result of the development, but then we resize them with the assumption, especially in some areas where you may not have for example, septic area or things of that nature, we assume there's a build-out. There's a build-out situation. So for example, let's just say that this current pipe, for example, let's say it's 8 inches, right? And the developer has a need of improvement to a 12. However, the build-out capacity requires a 16. We'll ask the developer to put a 16 in pipe, creating excess capacity for future connection. And there's actually a portion of the code that for 10 years, the extra capacity that they created, they'll actually have to reimburse the developer based on a formula that's written in the code.
I'm sorry, say that again, you go...
So basically, so if the developer creates a capacity improvement project, right? So they create an excess capacity in the system, then for 10 years, according to the code and based on a formula, a future connector
pays them back.
It's based on a formula, depending on their flows. So that's usually how that works. But that gets developed, that's through the design process. But definitely the project will not move forward if there's no sewer capacity, and there's no sewer capacity, they will be required to make the necessary improvements.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chip. Sue?
Thank you. I've got some comments and I've got some questions. First of all, I think the project looks fantastic. I'll tell you that right off the bat. I think it looks fantastic. I like the way you broke up the building. I like the way that you added sidewalk all around for mobility purposes. I think it's outstanding. I love the 56 or whatever foot paseo. I like so much about this project. I really do. With that said, there are some things I don't like. And here's where I'm headed with this. First of all, thank you for bringing something up that we don't discuss enough, Chip. We always discuss traffic, infrastructure, what we see above the ground, but we never discuss what's below the ground, the infrastructure, the capacity, the sewer. And now with this lean towards the county lean towards everybody going sewer, we never discuss what's happening underground. And I don't know about you people, but I didn't see anything on the news about adding more capacity for sewers. I think we're putting Band-Aids on an old system. So when you're saying, we're going to add another 830 bedrooms, that's a lot of toilet usage, okay? To put it bluntly. Yeah. And that's one building. That's one building. And these are students, right? They drink a lot. You need a lot of capacity for them, okay? So thank you for bringing that up, because I think we need to discuss this a little further. This board should discuss it. But let me get back to a couple of other things. So Landmark at this point doesn't really own the property. You know, I was in another life involved with the Venera, which is now called the Standard, okay? And I was part of the neighborhood association, and we had very contentious moments about the Standard. And a couple of things that were revealed, and I have to say that Henry Pinero took the lead on this because he was part of the Riviera Neighborhood Board at that point in time, discovered a couple of things that we were not happy about Landmark not disclosing. One of them was the ownership, who really owned it. And one thing that came across my computer right after that project was approved was a flyer. Hey, students, come here and be part of our project, and it had a big University of Miami logo on it. So with the questions about, do you have discussions with University of Miami regarding, well, let's put it this way, are you the straw man for UM? Because on the other side of US 1, my side where I live in Riviera, we now have the Venera, now called the Standard. It's dormitories. That's all it is. They're dormitories. Now we have the Paseo, that I heard was designed specifically for Chinese students and the hotel for the Chinese parents to come and visit. And guess what happened when they opened? The pandemic. No Chinese students, no Chinese visitors. But now you're seeing a lot of Asians. So, and my understanding is that the UM actually solicited that developer to build this for the Chinese students. Now we have another dormitory going in, or wanting to go in, where the Bagel Emporium Plaza is, another dormitory. So what's happening, you have this beautiful residential area, and what's overshadowing the residential area with no buffer? We got a bunch of dormitories. When did we become the straw men for the University of Miami? Why are we building dormitories in a residential area? Okay? And it is Landmark. I mean, I've done the research on it. Henry's done the research on it. Go to the website, anybody. You do nothing but dormitories. So let's not say it's for yuppies. This is for students. They're dormitories. And as much as your website is trying to soften that a little bit, saying, oh, we're also doing some residential, every single one of your projects are major dormitories across the country. And you pride yourself, I forgot my list here, you pride yourself as being the largest dormitory builder in the country. Okay? So we're turning the Riviera neighborhood, where Chip lives, where I live, where Henry lives, where a lot of people here live, into basically a very transient neighborhood. And I don't know if you've been to the Publix. When I go to my Publix on Monza, which is where the Standard is, it looks like the locust came there, because you can't find anything, because the students have come in, especially on game day, and you can't find anything on the shelves. It's like locusts have invaded a residential area. We can't shop at Publix anymore. So my concern, I've got a couple concerns. Number one, this is a dormitory in a residential area. Love the project, love the way it looks, but it's a dormitory. And I'm glad you didn't buy it yet, because I think you're hearing a lot of people pushing back, okay? I think this project should go someplace else, but not here. Look, when I bought my house, I didn't expect to build a 5-story house on my property. I knew what I could have on my property, and that's what I've got on my property, and that's it. And if I do want to add to it, guess what? I have to put through the permitting process, and it's a nightmare. You guys have it easy. You come before here with a nice presentation, and a lot of you people get rubber-stamped approvals. I think you're seeing a change in the board. We're not rubber stamping anymore, okay? So a couple of other things. The alley. How much are you guys willing to pay for the alley? I didn't hear it. I didn't hear you saying we're going to pay the city $3 million for that piece of property, because right now I own it and Chip owns it, and Henry owns it.
Hermes, yes, Public Works Director. The city does not own rights-of-ways that were dedicated for public use. And they were basically taken from the property, abutting property owners for the creation. And specifically on an alley, on the Florida statute, the definition of an alley is intended for access and service to the abutting property owners. So the city code has a process in place where if the alley is no longer being used in the manner that was intended, they can go ahead and put an application for the alley to be vacated. Under the Florida statutes, the alley gets reverted back to the abutting property owners, which is the location of the alley came from. The city does not have a deed for most of our right-of-ways. So if a right-of-way is to be abandoned, it just gets returned back to whoever dedicated to the city to begin with, or their, the term of the plat is, it escapes me right now, assignee, so whoever is the owner of the property. So we don't have an avenue to demand a developer will pay the city for an alley, because the city doesn't own them. So I just want to make that clear.
Okay, if we don't own it, how can we give it away?
We're not giving them away. There's a process by which the alley are created, and the code has a process by which the alley are abandoned. And this is part of the process. The ultimate arbiter will be the city commission.
Okay, thank you, Hermes.
You're welcome.
Okay. That's a pretty pricey piece of property, though. It's a nice piece of property. I would say $3 million. What about you?
I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Can I just advise the board? We've had this discussion. There's two ways that a municipality can acquire property. It can condemn it and pay for it, or two, it can, through development, request for dedication of right-of-way. With regard, if we condemn a piece of property and we're using it and somebody wants it, then the only way they can get it is through a sale, because the deed for that property is through a condemnation. With right-of-way, we are the stewards of the right-of-way. We don't have the right to charge for that because, as it was explained, we don't actually own it. We're the steward of it. So that's why we can't request that payment for the right-of-way.
I'm saying that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but you get my point here. One last issue I want to talk about is the traffic study. I can't tell you how many traffic studies I've seen. I don't think there has been one traffic study that I've seen that says you can't do it. There's going to be too much traffic. You can't do it. I haven't seen one, and I've been at this for about 15 years.
So I just want to clarify the purpose of traffic study. Traffic is not a concurrency requirement for development. The way that a sanitary sewer system is, the way that power, water, etc. The purpose of traffic study is to discuss the impact from the traffic perspective to development, to this board, to the city commission, so you can base your decision accordingly. The traffic study may well say that, yes, you're increasing this amount of traffic to the streets, but maybe no improvements are possible, okay? But the traffic study is never going to say this development does not move forward. That is not the purpose of traffic study. The traffic study is simply to provide you with information that you need to make your decision, and obviously to the city commission. Unlike sewer or power or water, if you don't have sewer capacity, if you don't have water, you don't have power, guess what? The project does not move forward. The traffic is not a concurrency requirement, but it's just for information purposes. That's the purpose of traffic study. So the traffic study is never going to say this project should not move forward.
Can I ask him one question? We understand it's not a concurrency issue. I think we all know that traffic's not a concurrency issue. But as a city planner, as a city designer, traffic engineer, traffic does have an impact on the quality of neighborhood.
It does.
So I think that just so you know, I look at a traffic study not in a concurrency vein, but I look at it as impact to neighborhood quality of life.
And that's why we go through this process.
I want to just say, I know it's not a concurrency
That's why the information is available, so you have an opportunity to make your decision, and the same goes to the commission.
All right, I'm just saying, the traffic studies actually damage, in my estimation, the developer's pitch. They damage it. Because when you tell me that there are going to be 830 people sleeping in a project, and the traffic is actually going to go down by 716 vehicles.
Sure.
Yeah, 716 less daily trips.
I can
That's
speak to
that's
that.
what your
I'll let,
that's what your study says. 716 less daily trips with a project with 830 beds.
So obviously, as he mentioned at the beginning, it's an estimate. What happened is that we have to take into account what is under the pre-existing conditions. And the existing conditions was retail. I was just had the opportunity to revisit the numbers that I was looking for, that you asked. And I noticed that, for instance, the traffic at the signal, and that's Madruga, and US 1 was way higher than it was after the new building was implemented. At that time, that development was, the intensity of the retail was much higher than after the implementation of the new building. Maybe the development, the retail started to go down. Maybe there was an issue of occupancy in the shopping plaza, but that's the reality. Again, why in the future is going to be less the overall daily traffic? That is an estimate based on a formulation, based on ITE. Is that something that we can validate? We will see. The peak hour is what is we do care. The peak hour is what it cares, because that at that specific moment, it shows that there will be more traffic, and that's the reality.
Okay, Juan, thank you. Just two more comments. I live in that area, and right now, because we're not adding school traffic in here, we're looking at peak hours. There are points of the day when I come home from work, I cannot get into my house. I live off of South Alhambra. South Alhambra is blocked, and it's not only the school traffic, it's people wanting to get to the Paseo, but they know they can't make a left turn on US 1. They take Maynada, come all the way down to South Alhambra to make a right turn onto US 1. I can't get to my house. I was stuck in traffic the other day for 20 minutes trying to get to my house on South Alhambra. And it's not just the school. So I'm just saying, you add another project and then another project. The UM building is, I think, sold. What's going to happen there? And all of a sudden, we are literally home locked. We are not going to be able to move. Love your project. Not here. Sorry.
Thank you. Julio?
I like the project also. I think it's very nice. I have a question on the setbacks on US 1. Can you show me a section through there what the setback is and what's the landscaping in there?
Not sure if I have a slide of that. Give a slide that shows the step back. I'm sorry, that has a section.
It's 20 feet. 20 feet, isn't it? Is it 20 feet?
Yes, the setback on US 1 is 20 feet, but aren't you asking for the step back and how?
No, setback from building from the edge of US 1.
Oh, yes, it's mandatory 20 feet. I thought you asked for the step back and how they're encroaching into it. And they're proposing more than 20 feet. I think they're at 25? Yeah. 25 feet.
And what's the landscaping going there?
Let me go to the site plan real quick. Oops. So yeah, on top here, you can see this is US 1. So what they're doing is they're widening the sidewalk to make it, I think, twice as wide that what is now. I think right now is a standard 5 feet at F. Road. Mm-hmm. They're widening that sidewalk to be 10 feet, 12 feet. Okay, thank you. And they have additional landscape between that wide sidewalk and where they're going to have, outdoor seating and pavers and within their property.
Is there a drawing of a section through it?
I can check. I haven't seen a drawing. I can check and see if the
That scale, I can tell what's the sidewalk, what's the trees, what's the width of it.
I believe they have.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting, but we're at 9:25.
Okay. Before you continue, is there another motion to extend the time?
Let him make the motion.
Me?
Javier?
I'll make a motion that we go to 9:45.
I'll second.
Thank you.
We have a motion 9:45. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against?
That shows you as well.
Continue.
It's just,
He has an aversion
oh,
to 10
okay.
o'clock.
If you could pull up the applicant's PowerPoint
was
and go to slide 50, just to zoom into that. Excuse me. Or Gables TV. And also page 36 and attachment B has it as well. Oh, slide 50.
Pretty courtyard, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Looks like it's tiled, mosaic tile on the ground.
Yeah, could you zoom into the bottom left on our site plan? Oh, sorry, on our key plan. That's the section. And scroll a little bit down and zoom in a lot more. Yeah, so you can see, I'll show you in here.
The one on the bottom left?
Yes, where's mine? Yeah, move it up a little bit so you can see it in plan right here. Oh, this is really off. And that's a section there.
Okay.
So you have that, dining terrace area, you have a landscape, and you have that wider sidewalk. Half of it is in US 1 and half of it is in their private property. And the standard, not standard, but the landscape that's continuing, that you see in front of the Paseo project, they'll be continuing that kind of landscaping along here as well.
Got it, thank you. This is a very important site. It's the one that's left over undeveloped right next to the metro station. And I remember when the metro rail was built, that everybody thought that this was going to occur all over the line. It's taken us from 1972 to today to start seeing those developments. But it's the right development at the right site. I really don't care if his students live there or not. If the project is correct, if the project is the right scale, if it does what it's supposed to do, I am all for it. The University of Miami is one of the most important institutions that we have. And I didn't go to the University of Miami, by the way, in this city. And this building, if it's going to be mostly students, is going to serve the university well. And the students bring life to the city and bring activity, use businesses, money coming out from other communities being invested in Coral Gables, which adds value to this project. But I'm for the project.
Thank you. Javier?
We're going from 77 feet to 95 feet.
97 feet, yes, 20 feet.
2 floors.
Yes.
By right, they can do 77 feet. They still have to come here for a PAD.
Well, not by right, with med bonus.
With med
level
bonus,
2.
sorry.
Okay.
They've obviously gone well above and beyond the requirements for med bonus. In my opinion, they've checked off every box twice. And it's a tribute to the architect for being able to solve the puzzle and the problem of getting this many units on that site. However, I have some real reservations with regards to the depth of the light wells, that they're going to be actually rather unpleasant. I think they would be better served if they were brought down to 77 feet. I also think that their paseo would probably live a lot better and the trees would work a lot better if the building were down to the 77 feet with its med bonuses. And I wouldn't have a problem approving that project. But I have a problem approving that project at this scale, given the residential neighborhood, the Capri right next to it, the absolutely narrow alleyway, which exists now in Madruga, which doesn't make any sense at all. And just the level of intensity one to another is a compatibility problem in my personal point of view. So I'm not going to be able to support this project the way it is. So Thank you very much.
Thank you. Without going over what most of our colleagues have said, and I do agree with all the points that were taken here tonight, I have to remember that we are a quasi-judicial board. As a quasi-judicial board, we are here to hear the testimony that's given to us by all the professionals. We're not here for a popularity contest or what people might agree or what people may not agree. We have to rely upon the competent and substantial evidence that's provided before us. The project, I like the way the project is. The height doesn't bother me so much on the 20 feet. What I'm still unclear about is the traffic. To me, I don't feel there's something missing on the traffic study or the way it's presented or the way it was given to me for me to be able to make a clear decision. Other than that, I don't have an issue with the 20 feet. I don't have an issue with the paseo. I think it's great. As far as it being a straw hat for the University of Miami, I don't feel that. Are there going to be students there? Probably yes, but there are developments and companies that go ahead and build projects that are specific for universities and around universities. And we have to remember that the University of Miami is in Coral Gables, and they are also our neighbors. My biggest concern is the traffic study. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I just don't understand enough of it on the traffic study the way it is for me to say yes on the project. I would love if there's a way to come back and just elaborate better on the traffic study. I don't know if that's an option. I would feel more comfortable as an individual and as a board member. I, like Chip, travel that road, Hardy. I travel it all the time. And I actually, even though a lot of times when I'm going somewhere, I'll put Waze on, and it will take me through the road, right through the thesis. And when I see it's taking me that way, I just can't understand it because I'll never get across US 1 to head south on US 1. I just won't. But I think we all have to remember that we need to rely upon the testimony that's brought before us. And I think that's important. We all have emotions, we all have feelings, we all like a project, don't like a project. For me, do I like it aesthetically? Yes, but it's gone before the Board of Architects, and it's the Board of Architects' responsibility, in my opinion, for the city of Coral Gables to approve the project. Once they approve the project, then it moves forward. And I'm not somebody to come and say, it needs to be a little more in or a little more out. To me, that's not our purview. It's not our decision. But what does concern me is the transportation study, the traffic study that's there. Laura, you'd like to come up?
I'd like you to consider a motion to defer because I think we can bring you some answers at a future date and more concise answers with respect to sewer capacity. I know we've been meeting and we have someone, a utility coordinator as part of the project, so I'd like to be able to answer, we're going from 8 inches to 16 or whatever, we're adding excess capacity. I think I'd like to work with our traffic engineer, the project traffic engineer, as well as the city consultant to perhaps present a traffic presentation that's a little bit more cohesive, more coherent, to give you information on intersections, maybe get some counts on some of the streets that were there, so that you have a fuller picture, right? And it may or may not change your mind, but at least you're doing it with more information in your hands. And I think, yes, you're correct with respect to the Board of Architects. That's the assignment of the Board of Architects, is to determine the aesthetics of the project and that. But with respect to the sewer infrastructure, whatever answers we can give you there and information, I think that would be important. And and we can, provide information to you. But I do want to just address a couple of points that were made with respect to the standard. The Landmark was under contract with the local developer with a confidentiality clause, a non-disclosure clause. And while we wanted to come forward and let everybody know, because I know you know me, Sue, that when I represent someone, I go, let's tell everybody what it is, whether it's Riviera School or Gulliver or whatever. But we were not allowed to by the local developer. So we had very little input on that design, but from an operation standpoint, yes, in fact, it is the majority of the project is for students, but it is a project that has not had complaints, doesn't have loud parties, we have checked with the police, we have checked. It is a project that is immaculate in terms of what it has. And again, while not everybody likes students, some of you know students will move into the neighborhood if they're living in the university. If they're going to the UM, they find ways to live closer to it. So providing apartments that are targeted for the university community makes sense when you're located on a very busy arterial and right across the street. But I'd like to be able to defer and come back when we're able to put together this data and at least give you that information to consider.
And specifically, there was a lot of information that Chip asked for.
Right.
With
And
traffic.
I'm going to
I
get
think
it.
that's, to me, that's important. He really brought up a lot of good points.
Well,
You know,
and I
had-
think if that can be addressed in a coherent traffic presentation with slides or with something, it may or may not change your minds, but at least you'll be making that decision based on data that's targeted toward the question.
And if I could ask one thing, because the Paseo was supposed to do a traffic study every single year after it was built. Can you please incorporate the results of that yearly traffic study that the Paseo was required to provide into your next report, please?
Well,
No, I'll make sure it gets provided to the city's traffic consultant, yes. And we'll try to make it part of whatever presentation we put together to address the traffic.
Is there a motion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to defer.
I second.
We have a motion to defer. Chip, a second. Any discussion? Hold just one second. It's to defer time certain.
Well, let's decide.
We're going to be
when we're gonna
deferring
have it for.
which item numbers first.
Okay, well, first of all, I think you have to defer 1 through 6. So the motion should be E1 through E6.
To defer. And
Then we're going to have another motion on the rest of the agenda. We're going to probably have to defer that too, if we're going to be done today.
well, let's take 1 through 6 first.
Let's take 1 through 6 first.
Are you talking about you'll be able to come to the next meeting, so you don't have to re-advertise and we continue?
I'd rather, even if we have to re-advertise, I'd rather make sure that we have all the data and collecting some of
That's
these
smart.
traffic reports and meeting with the traffic, getting everybody to get everything they need to put together a really thorough and comprehensive. I'd rather come back to you when I have that than,
So the deferral is to not a time certain.
right, but will require
E1 through E6.
And it will require re-advertising. We understand that.
That's fine. You can
We
do
can
it
actually
soon.
vote on the easement since it's really housekeeping. It's just.
For me, I'd prefer to just
Fine.
me. I can't speak for
Then my
anybody
motion is to defer items E1 through 6 until such time as we're
As
notified
you're
by
ready.
the.
And we had a second by Mr. Withers. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, there's something that you said that is, for me, a little disturbing. You said that the only people that should actually be in this room
No, that's
to
not.
testify professionally that in your capacity as chairman of this board is that you said only professional, substantial, competent evidence.
That's not what I said.
Can you rephrase it because I didn't understand?
No, let's read what exactly I said. I said that we must.
Well, I'll make this easy.
Go ahead,
For
please.
having them. You have to base your decision on substantial competent evidence. Certain evidence can be lay testimony, and certain evidence may require experts. Sometimes, and in the case law, sometimes traffic requires an expert testimony. Compatibility in the courts does not have to be expert testimony. It can be certainly lay testimony.
So that's
But
what I wanted.
we are a quasi judicial board.
No,
So you consider all the evidence
Right.
that is substantial competent.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that the neighbors that are testifying.
They're
that-
important. They're important what they're testifying, but the expert that they have on the traffic, to me, I'm not satisfied.
Okay.
With
well,
the answers.
That's fine. But what just to make sure I get this right, the testimony from those neighbors, based on their observations, based on their quality of life, can carry weight with this board.
That's correct. The line has to be drawn when you're looking at a project and somebody says, well, this is going to be a lot of traffic. If the testimony is, I'm sitting at my intersection right now and I can't get out of my house, that is observation testimony.
Right. So
that's a different kind of testimony. So I think we're both saying the same thing.
And Mr. Chairman, what I was doing is not trying to insult you. What I was trying to do is clarify exactly what I've done my entire life as sitting on this board before, chairing this board before, and other quasi-judicial boards. Because if not, we just don't have to have neighbors come here. They should just go straight to the commission because we only recommend. Commission actually approves.
Correct.
That's correct, but the point, we recommend, but it is a quasi-judicial board. So
We have to
under our
listen to the
code.
testimony from the
So,
experts, and it wasn't sufficient.
and those witnesses can provide substantial competent evidence as well as the experts.
Okay. Just thank you for the clarity.
Sure.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion?
So this is a deferral of E1 through E6 to no date certain.
Correct. Call the roll, please.
Felix Pardo,
No.
Javier Salman,
Out of reasonableness, yes.
Chip Withers,
Yes.
Julio Gabriel,
Yes.
Sue Kowalinsky,
Yes.
Baby Eisenstadt.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're not done yet.
No, I realize that. My question to the board is, we have other items. Do we want to defer the other items, or do we want to listen to them and extend? What do you want to do?
If I may have what I hope is a very simple, quick item. There's a city project that is predicated upon this closure, so I respectfully ask that you allow me to.
Is there a motion to
I'll be as quick as
extend-
possible.
Listen to the good man.
Is there a motion to extend
Thank
to,
you.
excuse me, to what time?
I would suggest you make it 10 o'clock.
9:59, since Javier has an adverse reaction to 10?
I have an adverse reaction to
9:59 in
10
30
I just
seconds.
I won't be here
Okay.
past 10 o'clock.
So there's a motion to extend to 9:59.
There's a motion to 9:59?
All right, let's do
We
it.
can do a voice vote.
All right.
Yeah, aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Ready, set, go.
It's not a traffic study.
Can I please have up? No, it is not. Can I please have the presentation up? So.
Wait a minute.
Yes,
I have
you
to
need
read this first.
Absolutely.
Which item are we?
Billmore Drive right-of-way vacation.
E7, right? Okay. Item E7, an ordinance of the City Commission of Coral Gables, Florida, approving the vacation of a public right-of-way pursuant to zoning code Article 14, process section 14-211, abandonment and vacations, and City Code Chapter 62, Article 8, vacation, abandonment, and closure of streets, easement alleys by private owners and the city, application process, providing for the vacation of the 70-foot wide Biltmore Drive between lots 1 and 2 and Block 25 and Lot 1 and Block 27, Riviera Section, Part 1, 757 Blue Road, Coral Gables, Florida, providing for a repeal of provision, severability clause, and providing for an effective date. Item E7, public hearing.
So, Thank you for hearing the item. The purpose of this item is the
Could
Billmore.
you state your name and
Oh, I'm sorry. Hermes Diaz, I am the Poly Works Director. This for the Billmore Drive right-of-way vacation. The section of Billmore Drive, which you can see up in the screen, was created by the Riviera Section Part 1 Subdivision, Plat Book 28-31, as recorded in Miami-Dade County Clerk of the Courts. It was originally intended to cross the Coral Gables waterway, but this connectivity is no longer feasible. In fact, if you see that lot that is called 25A, that is the Coral Gables waterway.
I know you need to make the 9:59.
I'll be slower.
But be
Absolutely.
a little slower. Thank you.
So to the left, you see the original plat as it was intended to be developed. Billmore Drive was intended to go across the waterway, which is lot 25A and the 100-foot right-of-way you see right behind it. And to the right, you see an aerial view of what the area actually looks like. The section of Billmore Drive between Blue Road and the waterway was left unimproved. So it's basically an empty lot. So what we want to do is that we want to vacate that right-of-way, which is approximately 14,500 square foot. Now, based on your typical rights to reversal, this right-of-way will be split in half. The city owns the lot to the left. There's a private property owner who owns the other side. So subject to an execution agreement with a budding property owner, the city will be taking 3/4 of the vacation as opposed to half and half. So we'll be taking a little more. And for the purpose to have it incorporated into Blue Road Park. The park itself, the current site is used to provide waterway access for canal maintenance, and the development of the park will retain that purpose. An initial concept design meeting was held on October 21st in accordance with requirements of a grant, which the city obtained for the development of this project. That's a $200,000 grant, and there is a requirement that the project is completed by June of 2025. This is another close-up. This is the boundary, the approximate boundary of the park. And then you see the empty space in between, which is the right-of-way that is being vacated. The next thing is just a rendering of what the proposed park, what the park is being proposed. That is the end of the presentation.
So what is it, can you go back up 2 slides real
Sure.
quick?
Please. Bring it up.
What is the neighbor getting out of this deal?
They get, so you have 70-foot right-of-way.
He's getting a quarter of the right of way.
That's what I'm saying.
So he's getting a quarter of the right of way.
Maybe the neighbor helps pay for the park.
The neighbor.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay. The neighbor agreed to. We're getting 3/4 as opposed to half, which is standard in these cases, and that's
So that's just a protection between the neighbor's house.
It creates a buffer between the park and the neighbors. Absolutely.
But the neighbor can't develop on it or anything like that. Is that correct?
It is part of their property if they do end up claiming it. So I'm not sure at that point what the setbacks will be or.
In a park, I don't know, what is our setback on public parks? Or the side setback on a public park?
Yeah, so it would be incorporated as part of their folio, right? The vacated portion, the 1/4 of it, I guess, in this case.
I know, but what is the setback between a physical building and a public park?
There is no
on the
specific,
side?
there's
Is it
not a specific
15 feet?
setback for next to a park.
No, it's only if
You'd
it's
have
a
a side
side
setback.
street.
Okay.
Okay, otherwise it's treated as a neighbor. So it's the same, 10 foot or 15 foot, whatever it is.
20% of your side area, yeah.
Right, it does. Which right now nobody's paying taxes on it.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's reasonable because it's, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Could you speak in the microphone,
I
please?
think it's reasonable because it's creating just a little more separation for noise and activity, so it seems to be a fair deal.
Yeah. I have a concern.
Sure.
Through the chair. We're not providing any parking on this property, right?
No.
Okay. And.
The neighborhood park.
One of the requirements of the grant is that it provides access to the waterway? Is it physical access to the waterway, or is it just visual access?
No. I don't believe that the grant requires that. However, the park will have some viewing
No, because I see a drive, or what appears to be a drive.
So that drive is there because we actually use that ourselves. The Poly Works Department has a pontoon. And that's where we,
for official use only, it's not going to be
that is for us. No, that is for, because that condition exists right now. We need to maintain it because that's where a pontoon, if we need to bring things out of the waterway, we currently use that, so we need to maintain that.
And the
So that's
neigh-
not for public use, that's for the city's own.
And the neighbors are good with the park.
The Parks Department has a very robust public engagement, and they've done several public meetings on this matter. And, what you see on the park is what the neighbors have expressed a desire to. And in fact, the park itself will be built in 2 phases because we have this grant and we need to get it done with a certain time period. We don't have money to build it in one shot. So a portion of the park will be done now, and then at a later year, the water work will actually be added later.
That was my concern. I just want to make sure that
No,
we're not providing parking, because I already see people fishing off the other bridge.
That drive is mine.
And it's going to be blocked off. I mean, there'll be some sort
It's
of.
gated, and
gate
yes,
or- okay.
correct.
I just want to go on record. I see, it looks like a gate from here, but I don't
Right.
see that well.
Unfortunately, I should have chosen a different rendering that show that area, but yes, there is a gate on that area.
I just want to clarify. I'm ready to vote for it. Let's go.
Correct. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we need to find out if there are any persons want to
Anybody
speak on this item.
No.
No? No. Close the public comment. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
To go ahead and approve the staff recommendation for receiving 3/4 of that
Right away.
right away, and then
Easement.
1/4 to the other neighbor.
So we have a motion?
I second.
That's approval of E7 in accordance with department recommendations.
Yes.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Javier Salmon,
Yes.
Chip Withers,
Yes.
Julio Gabriel,
Yes.
Sue Kowalewski,
Yes.
Felix Pardo,
Yes.
A.B. Eisenstadt.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what you want to do with E8. We do have 9 minutes left.
And what do you want to do?
You have new business?
I would move it to the next meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Move the.
I would agree.
Okay, so can we get a motion to defer to the date certain then?
Yes, so moved.
So what is the date of the next meeting?
May 8th.
Man.
May 8th, okay. So motion to defer to May 8th.
Made by Mr. Pardo. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Julio seconds. Any discussion? No? Call the roll, please.
Chip Withers,
Yes.
Julio Gabriel,
Yes.
Sue Kowalewski,
Yes.
Felix Pardo,
Yes.
Javier Salmon,
Yes.
A.B. Eisenstadt.
Yes. Thank you.
I did
Is there-
note that there was a
is there a
discussion
motion?
item. There was a discussion item. I presume, do we need a formal motion to defer that? No.
think
It's
so.
a discussion
We don't
item.
normally
Discussion
do it.
items for your homework, by the way.
Oh, it's
Just
for your
look at
homework.
it.
Thank you.
Some
Okay.
nice,
Is there
Sorry.
a
Nighttime
motion
reading.
to adjourn?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, we did.